Next man up, 1025, The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis from News 2, Parker Kelly, Ian Safar behind the glass, making it happen. Happy Wednesday, Nashville. Going to be a fun one. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Cory, how's it going? Thanks for coming in.
Word, I made it on time today.
Yes, yeah, even with some bad traffic out here.
Well, that was past the station
Right.
for me. And so, of course, today, normally I give myself 10, 15 extra minutes. Today I gave myself 30 extra minutes. So, of course, there was no traffic and I got here like 30 minutes early. But you know what? I'd rather be early than late.
That
I am
true.
Grateful.
And it always is hit or miss. If you leave early, you're going to be here
Yep, I
early.
knew it.
If you leave on time, traffic will make you late.
The good news is anybody watching on the stream knows I've got a big full cup of coffee and I'm ready to rock and roll.
There you go. Yeah, I will mention I have coffee too. The station got their caramel coffee back. So if you smell it, that's it. It's going to be a good day knowing that the golden caramel coffee is back in the kitchen here. Already made my day at 9:02 a.m. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So Cory, the game on Sunday, Titans lose 20-12 in Denver. And last week when you were on, we had the conversation of if you can get Cam Ward the ball.
This is exactly what I wanted to talk about.
This is what I was thinking yesterday. I was like, where do I want to start with Cory? I was like, This is exactly where we have to start. Last week, we said, if you can get the ball to Cam Ward with a chance to tie or win the game in the final couple minutes, you did great.
Yes, you would be so excited about, hey, we went toe-to-toe with the Broncos.
Right.
We gave Cam a chance to see, and we're not talking about
that. Because no one would have guessed the way we got there is the way that we got there. Yeah. And it feels completely different than the way you would have expected. If somebody told you, hey, game ends 20-12, Cam Ward had a minute to go down the field and try and tie it at the end.
Yeah, we'll take that.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
But the way that it happened was just completely off the rails from what anyone would have expected.
First off, there, and I'm not trying to blow sunshine up anybody here, but the defense was better, right? I mean, largely. I mean, you held the Broncos to 20. You'll take that.
Yeah,
you'll take
forced 3 turnovers.
Yeah, four overall with 1 on special teams.
Yes,
and then the other thing is special teams. Special teams was much, much better than a year ago.
Funny what a competent coordinator can do.
Yeah. I mean, they made plays. Hecker shook off the poor preseason and was tremendous. Joey Sly was great. So 2 of the 3 facets you were very, very, very good in. And then, look, we knew it was going to be a struggle to protect. I think it was more of a struggle than we were hoping for. I think we were all looking for it to stand up a little stouter, because there were times where it was a jailbreak back there.
Yep.
But, when decision-making by the coach is the overwhelming sentiment after the game, that's a position a coach doesn't really ever want to be in. You don't want to be what is seen as holding the team back. All right. You're like the referees are better to be, not seen.
Right.
Coach is probably better to be not seen, unless it's like, wow, that was a great call. But, instead, he's got 2 major things right now where people are like, what are you doing?
Yeah. You'd love to have a coach who wins you a game. Like there are times where
Vrabel special,
right? Where Vrabel, the Texans game a few years back, where he ran the 12th guy onto the field, and it ended up working out that they got the ball back and had a chance to go win it in overtime. Like that. It's very rare that you can look at a game and say that decision by the coach won us.
Remember the
game.
Punt game shenanigans with the Patriots?
with Belichick in the playoffs. Like it is rare that you can look and say, yeah, the head coach may have won us that game with that decision, but if you're going to be an NFL head coach, you can't be the reason your team loses.
Well, how about Sean Payton with his decision to throw that ball on 4th down? I mean, if Cam Ward goes down and scores, Sean Payton's getting flambéed this week. What are you doing?
That is true. And out of all of the options he had at his disposal, I think he chose the worst one.
Yeah.
And if Bo Nix had read the play the right way, it probably still works out. Cortland Sutton was wide open on the other side of the field. I don't know what the read was or anything on there.
But you made it an option.
Right.
And sometimes, like the Titans found out at halftime, you can't make the bad alternative an option.
Yes.
You just need to go away. You just need to get to the locker room. And I think both coaches were guilty of just not getting to the locker room.
Yes. I mean, in that situation, your options, it was what, 4th and 2. So you've got a 53-yard field goal,
Yep.
or you can go for it on 4th and 2. If you succeed at either
Or
of
you
those,
could punt.
Or you could punt. But if you succeed with a field goal or convert on 4th and 2, the game is over. You can take a knee. Or, I mean, if you kick the field goal, you kick it off, but the Titans would be down 2 scores at that point. It would have been over.
Or you've got a defense that's been completely dominant all day, and you can pin them deep.
Make them go 90 yards.
Make them go 90 yards and get a 2-point conversion.
It was one of the stranger decisions that we saw on Sunday, and that's saying something because we saw a lot from Brian Callahan.
Yeah.
And so Sean Payton gave them a chance, and it was tough to see the drops on that final drive. Not that we don't know whether the Titans would have been able to actually get it into the end zone. They hadn't been able to do it all day long.
Well, I mean, they did get the ball and didn't do a whole heck of a lot with it.
Right.
I mean, it's not like if Cam Moore put it on somebody, they were going to catch it.
Right.
So,
and he did. I mean, the Chig one would have been tough, but the throw to Calvin Ridley on that last drive hit him right in the hands.
Well, I mean, look, there were a couple of plays where you go, that's tough. I mean, the deep one over the middle to Ridley just hit him on the fingertips, and it's tough. These guys get paid to make tough plays. And I know I get criticized for being unrealistic or too hard or too difficult. It's like, here's a play that we haven't talked about at all, but it's the difference between winning and losing, because there are a handful of plays in a game truly that decide winning and losing.
Yep.
All right. Amani Hooker jumps the route.
Should have been pick six.
Yep. Don't tell me that's why he plays defense. They hit the jugs machine just like everybody else. He makes over $10 million a year.
Yep.
And he's a very good player, but you have to make that play, because what is it? It's the difference between winning and losing. It's 6 points.
Right.
It's 6 points.
You didn't score a touchdown all day. And that could have been a huge play. He read it perfectly. It reminded me of the game against the Rams.
The Kendall Brooks play in the preseason.
Well, that one, I was thinking of the Rams back in 2021 where Kevin Byard jumped Matthew Stafford and took it back for 6. Like, he read it the exact same way.
Yep.
It just bounced off his fingertips.
Yeah, but it can't. You have to make that play. When the opportunity presents itself, you have to make that play. It's like, here's another one. Jadeveon Clowney gets a free rush on Joe Burrow like week 2 or 3 or whatever that was, and whiffs on him.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to make that play.
Right.
I mean, that's what you get paid to do. That's the difference between winning and losing. Like you talk about Bo Nix, not finding Cortland Sutton wide open.
Right.
You have to make that play.
Yeah.
That's the difference between winning and losing. Now, they got away with it. The Titans didn't.
Yeah, and it is true that Hooker play, no one has talked about it. It kind of just fell to the wayside because of everything else that went on in that game.
And it's like you get a pass because you're a defensive player. And no, you don't get a pass. Make the play.
And I did mention on Monday the play Amani Hooker. It ended up working out. It led to the Tavondre Sweat stuff on 4th and inches. But not wrapping up on Cortland Sutton on 3rd down there almost cost the Titans, because they initially ruled it a first down. Brian Callahan does challenge and Sweat makes the play, but easily they could have run the clock out from there if Hooker just needs to wrap up.
And that was an unbelievable play by Sweat.
Oh, for sure.
And that's what we talk about when you get a chance to make the play.
Yep.
I had like 30 seconds before that play said to Julian in the sports office, I haven't heard Tavondre Sweat's name called all day, and boom,
the close-up of Sweat, like, he did not get touched by an offensive lineman. The first player he contacted was Bo Nix,
and he must have just timed that thing up perfectly.
Yes, it was a really impactful play. Probably should have gave the Titans an opportunity to go and tie the game. I mean, they had a short field down by 8. I believe, was that where Ward took the intentional grounding? And that kind of killed the drive. I think that sounds about right.
I mean, look, the pressure was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was tough. He did not have an opportunity. 7829 on the text line says he did make the play. It's literally a pass breakup for Amani Hooker.
No, that's not the play.
But
the play is a touchdown for the Titans.
Right. It should have been a touchdown.
Okay, so never mind. I'm not going to have that conversation.
Well, the text line this week, I haven't really understood the audience because
did it hit both hands?
Right.
Did it hit both hands?
7988 says, let's not do another show where we say the same things on Cali dysfunction when there are plenty of other things to talk about. Like, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on Callahan today. We're going to spend some time on it because it is the story coming out of Sunday's game. Like, this isn't something that you spend one day on and move on when your coach doesn't know the rules and he makes a horrible game management decision at the end of the first half. So we are going to talk about it. And 8395 saying, the radio guys this week have driven me crazy. The conversation was about what constitutes success, and you guys said it down by 1 with a minute left and the ball in your hands. Like, yes, that is what we said was success. But when your head coach could have had you winning that game at the end, that's not success.
Well, and as I do power rankings every week, and I was doing my power rankings last night, and I was trying to consider where to put the Titans. And for as much of a bad taste you have in your mouth in that game, you do have to consider the defense was very good. You do have to consider the special teams was very good. You do have to consider you liked a lot of what you saw from Cam Ward.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to move them up.
Yeah.
I'm going to, because they were competitive with a playoff team on the road. And I think what's been surprising for me is we always talk about the national perspective and how the Titans just get either ignored or bombed nationally. I think the national perspective for the Titans this week has been a lot better than the local perspective.
Yeah.
Because, we're all hyper-focused on the mistakes that were made, perceived mistakes that were made by the head coach.
Right.
And so I think there's a difference in perspective there. And I think if you take the view from 30,000 feet and you go, okay, this was better. But, the other thing we didn't talk about is 13 penalties.
Right.
And that's, that was the emphasis the entire offseason. And again, that has you questioning the head coach. Now they did the preseason, they were one of the least penalized teams in the league. And so is this an aberration because of all of the pressure that was on them? Or is this more of what we're going to continue to see? And I think that's, it's very early. It's very early. And I think what we all need to consider, and again, I'm going to sound like I'm blowing sunshine on people, but if they can be that competitive week in and week out, they'll win some games.
Yeah. And Brian Callahan is not going to get fired this week.
No.
He's going to be on the sidelines on Sunday and have a chance to prove that was more of a fluke than it was.
Look, every coach in the league, except for Andy Reid, just about, is coaching for their job.
Yeah. No, it's true.
But his is more extreme, and he's dug himself a hole. I'm not sure the IO manner, and I know you don't want to go all day on other stuff. I'm not sure that is as simple as it sounds with people.
Yeah.
Because I'm more on Paul Kaharski's train here. I think he got bad advice. Now, I think how he answered the question after the game,
right,
it's like they say the cover-up is usually worse than the crime.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Okay. That's my guess.
Usually you'd guess the head coach isn't the one who is looking up at the video board and making a decision whether to challenge or not. Like, that's not how that goes.
I've covered this league a long time. The head coaches, whether they're good or bad, are usually pretty smart. And one thing they usually have down is the rule book.
Right.
And if you listen to his Twisted Pretzel press conference Monday, when pressed on it and you saw him get aggravated, he's like, I know the rule.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, he knew the rule. He got bad advice.
That would be my guess too. But, the buck stops with the head coach.
Yes, it does. And that's ultimately why he took the blame.
Right.
Because, it's the whole Captain Kirk thing. He's responsible for conduct of ship and crew.
Yep. That is true. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get to your texts. We are going to do a panic meter on some of the things that went wrong for the Titans, because I think some of them, you do need to raise some red flags.
Sure.
Some of them, maybe it's just a 1 week thing. We'll talk about that later this hour. I did want to start with Cam Ward's debut with Cory, because there have been a lot of different opinions on how Cam Ward has done this week. And Dan Orlovsky, I think, had a really good breakdown of the film from Cam Ward. We'll talk about that coming up next here on this Wednesday. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game.
I was like blown away by his tape. I thought his tape looked awesome, dude. Like he throws the Tennessee's got a guy. Like Tennessee's got a guy. Like this guy's talent of throwing a football is off the charts. They win the game if they don't have like 8 drops. I counted for like that plays awesome. That's like that reminds me of like Joe Burrowish type stuff. I just the ability for him to thread the needle on some of the throws and just to cut the ball loose with what he's looking at. I was wildly impressed with. I mean, that defense is awesome. Awesome. And he made some throws that were, I mean, dude, I got drops on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drops. He cuts it loose, man. He is crazy talented throwing the ball. Now, I'll give you two things. Like, yes, there are times when he's got to be like, Cam, you can't take that sack. Like, he takes back-to-back sacks that takes him out of field goal range. He did that in college. He's got to learn from that. He would be my expectation. And there are also some times that he fires the friggin' ball in there. And I'm like, could you have taken a little bit off to help him? He's got the touch. He does. This isn't there's some guys who throw everything as a fastball. That's not that's not the case here. Money. I just did that throw sick. I'm telling you. I mean, he's got. I wish I had B-roll for you guys. He's got 8 drops that you're like, yo, that throw is off the chart. So
that was Dan Orlovsky on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, going through Cam Ward's debut, and I think maybe it's a little over the top on the praise for Cam Ward. The stats definitely don't show how well Cam Ward played. Sure. When you're 12 for 28 for 112 yards. Like, it wasn't great statistically, but when you watch the film, you can see, his supporting cast let him down a decent amount.
Well, Gunnar Helm has the bobble, which I think is a catch, because
I was surprised they overturned it.
Well, because he had the ball and the arm comes in there, and there is leeway now for control.
Yeah.
He had control. There was definitely not enough there to overturn that call.
Yes.
That was a bad overturn in my estimation.
I agree. I was surprised when they came back from commercial break and they said that it was overturned. I don't know if there were 8 drops. 8 from Orlovsky seems high.
Is the Calvin Ridley over the middle where it hits his fingertips a drop?
And the Chig one up the seam, that one was a tough play too.
I know, but I'd like to see those guys make both those plays.
I'd say, you could find 8 catchable passes that Cam Ward threw.
Well, Io Manor is not a drop, but it's ruled out of bounds, and it's a catch. So you got two big plays there. That's at least 35 yards with those two.
Yeah.
To add to his total. And like he's talking about the ability to cut it loose and thread the needle. He certainly did that.
Yes, he did.
He certainly did that. Now, I am more critical of some stuff, and right or wrong, I still think he's a tremendous talent and going to be a great quarterback. Don't mistake that. But he bears some responsibility, certainly not all of it, in taking points off the board. I know I'm going to get a lot of criticism for that's fine. That's fine. I don't care. Part of playing quarterback is minimizing damage, and there was a play or two where he didn't minimize damage. He maximized it.
Yeah.
And that hurt the team. Now, he's not trying to. I know that. I know he's better than Will Levis. I know that. And he'll learn, but it's that situational awareness like that Joe Montana had and Peyton Manning had, that, hey, I just got to get down here. I'll take the 3 yards or throw it away, but I can't go backwards.
Right. Cam, that was the one area where you saw him struggle, was when pressure came and he didn't have an answer.
There was no outlet.
What was he supposed to do?
Yeah.
And he took those 2 back-to-back sacks that took them out of field goal range after the muff punt. And then we mentioned after the 4th and short where he did try and throw it away, but he didn't really have awareness of where he was in the pocket because he drifted left to start and then rolled back right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, he was like, oh, I rolled right. I'm out of the pocket. I can throw it away.
But he was
still kind of right in the middle of the pocket.
Yeah. And that will come with experience for him because of how big the box is and the NFL rules of just getting out of the box and putting the ball across the line. But yeah, I mean, look, that was an unfair situation for a lot of quarterbacks. I'm from Chicago. I watched the 85 Bears make every quarterback they played except for Dan Marino look silly. So, I mean, it can happen to anybody. Every quarterback is great until they get punched in the mouth.
Right.
I mean, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes lost the Super Bowl 2 times.
Both weren't close.
And because he got punched in the mouth big time. And the Bucs really, really gave it to him. And so any quarterback is failable when you just bum rush him all day.
Yes. And for Cam Ward, 12 of 28 is not great. But you look at it, he probably, with the Gunnar Helm catch, with the Ironmanner catch, and a couple of drops, he could have easily completed 17 or 18,
20,
and he'd be over 200 yards at that point. I think it was a solid first game for Cam Ward. We've got texters saying, talking about the drops from Calvin Ridley. Like, the one you were talking about where it hit his fingertips, I don't know if you call that a drop. It was a catchable pass. The other two to Calvin Ridley were both drops.
Yes, absolutely.
The dig over the middle. Yes, the safety was coming up and hit him after he caught.
He got up that time and said, "That's on me."
Right.
And I'm like, I'm glad you're accountable, but catch the ball.
And then the one where you saw Cam Ward's dad get up and just beside himself.
Yeah.
Yes, that one was a bad drop, and that was a bad drop at a horrible time to have that drop.
Yeah.
So Cam Ward, I think he did a good job in his first game. He did not look like
he wasn't overwhelmed.
He looked like he belonged.
Yes, absolutely.
And I mentioned yesterday, I should have looked up who the Denver beat writer was who put this out there, but he said that there were Broncos defenders praising Cam Ward in the post-game locker room, saying he's going to be a guy. And, it's a really good defense. And I felt like the biggest thing for Cam Ward, he didn't put the ball in danger. Like, yes, the sacks were bad. He helped in taking 3 points off the board, but
there wasn't a near interception.
There were no turnover-worthy throws.
Yeah.
On Sunday, which is huge because you look through the preseason and there were a couple where you're like, that one, he got away with one there. The one against Tampa is the one that stands out.
Yeah. So, you're talking about, managing the game. There like I said, there were times where he can minimize damage better.
Right.
You can't take points off the board. And so, that can get better, but, actually unleashing the ball, he seemed to find people and give them a chance to make plays. At some point, they've got to make plays. And something we haven't talked about here is, Ironmanner had 7 targets.
Yep.
And that tells me he gave Cam a chance. Cam is looking at him saying, "All right, I'm going to throw you the football." Nobody else is getting that many targets. I mean, I don't know how many
Ridley, I think had 8.
Had 8.
But only caught 4 of them.
Yeah.
And a couple were like little, I think they gave him a target on the screen pass where no one looked for the ball.
Well, I think he was supposed to be the receiver there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he just didn't know it.
Right. And Ironmanner, I saw this was from a fantasy outlet. Ironmanner had the most unrealized air yards across the NFL on Sunday. So on targets, if he had caught all of them, it was like 120 unrealized air yards. So yes, he is getting some volume in this offense.
Yeah. And so I think that's promising because, the catch he doesn't get credit for is a great catch.
Yes.
And that's a great play.
Right. And that makes his day look a whole lot better if he has 3 catches for 45 yards instead of 2 for 20 or whatever he ended up with.
I mean, that was probably 20, 25 yards on the field.
Yeah, because it was 1st and 20. It would have been a first down. Yeah. I can't remember exactly how far past the sticks he was. He might've been right there.
And again, so we'll talk about positives.
Right.
I think, Ironmanner was not overwhelmed in that game. I think Chimere Dike showed that he can help this football team.
Yep.
I think the big thing is, the offensive line's got to be able to protect better. They've got to have more positive plays in the run game. And again, this is against one of the best defenses in the NFL. But when you come together as an offensive line, and it doesn't always happen in week 1, all right, they handle, I have been here since 2003, and I've seen some very good Titans offensive lines.
Yep.
And it didn't matter who they played. They got it done. All right. And so, we'll see if this line with talent that you think should give them a chance can get close to that level. They got a long way to go from week 1, without a doubt.
Right. And you look back at 2021, like that offensive line did not look good early. The Cardinals game to start the year where Lewan got beat 5 times by Chandler Jones, but by the end of the year, that was a pretty good unit. And so we'll see.
There was also the year that Lewan was suspended for the first 4 games.
Right. That was the year before.
And Saffold came in, and Saffold looked awful to start the year, and they didn't have Lewan. And you were like, oh, and that line ended up being pretty good.
Yep. The big question mark right now is J.C. Latham's health. And
that's scary.
We will get an update later today on whether he's out on the practice field. I would guess no.
Yeah.
we'll see. I'm sure Brian Callahan will update when he speaks this afternoon. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Later today on ESPN 94.9 The Fan, the Nashville Sounds take on Gwinnett at First Horizon Park. First pitch is at 6:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Sounds baseball on ESPN 94.9 The Fan is presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. I mentioned earlier we're going to do a panic meter around the Titans. I have some of the big issues from Sunday's game. We're going to see how concerned we are for the long term coming up next. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Perfect music here from Parker for this segment. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis from News 2. It is time to give our panic meter for the Titans. So I've got the three biggest issues for the Titans on Sunday.
Okay.
We're going to go 1 through 10. 10 being most concerned for the long term. This isn't just one game.
Okay.
1 through 10. 10 means you are
You're talking about for the rest of this
for
season.
the rest of this season.
Okay.
Do you think it's going to be a massive issue, or 1 is not a big deal, just one game?
Okay.
We're going to start with Brian Callahan.
Mm.
And again, 1 to 10. 10 means you think he's a disaster and should be fired today. 1 is let's extend him for 5 years based off what we saw on Sunday. So where are you on the Brian Callahan panic meter after 1 week?
Well, it's tough because it's easy to focus on the glaring. But then you also have to consider, like I said, special teams was better.
Yep.
Defense was better. And he gets credit for that.
Right.
He's the head coach.
When you're in charge, it all falls on your
That's
shoulders,
right.
the good and the bad.
Were they ready to play? Yep, they were ready to play. Did they play hard the entire game? Yep, they played hard the entire game. Now, there were mistakes, 13 penalties, Calvin Ridley on the screen pass, guys drop balls.
Yep.
And is it on the coach that the guys drop balls? Well, I mean, ultimately, like you're saying, everything is.
Yep.
So the successes and the failures. But I think, when you look at 3 and 15, I mean, that's the overwhelming number at this point. And you've got 2 tough games to start with. So, I will put it at a 6 or 7.
Yeah.
6, 7. Yeah. Something like that.
I not on my bingo card to have Cory Curtis going 6-7 on the
6,
show
7,
today.
Yeah. I have a 12-year-old daughter.
There you go.
I hear it all the time. I still don't know what it means.
I don't either. Like I feel like I have outgrown all of the is it called brain rot? Is that kind of all that stuff?
She says brain rot.
Yeah,
all the time,
I
still don't know what that means.
No idea. I'm with you though. I was gonna say 6. I think because of how bad it was on Sunday with the decision making, and also you brought up the penalties too.
Yep.
When you spent the whole offseason talking about sins and making sure you don't shoot yourself in the foot, and you do it multiple times on Sunday.
Yep.
And again, not all of the penalties I think would fall under the self-inflicted negatives. Like Jarvis Brownlee Jr.'s got to be better at not getting called for penalties, but that's in the heat of the play.
He's so handsy though.
Right.
I mean, you're going to get away with some, but most of the time I'm like, yeah, that's holding.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's got to be better, but I don't know if that falls in the sins, but like the Jeffrey Simmons defensive,
the pre and the post snaps are the worst.
Yes.
And if you can just eliminate the pre and the post, you can live with the in-play ones. And Brian's talked about that.
Yeah.
The in-play stuff is going to happen.
Yep.
All right. But the false starts, the offsides, and then I don't care how soft you think it was to call that penalty.
You can't do it.
It was unnecessary. And he's a captain.
Yep.
All right. It was a selfish decision. That's all there is to
it. In that moment when you're
it's
just
third down.
You are trying to get the ball back to your offense at all costs, because if they don't get the ball, like, you'd feel pretty stupid punting on that 4th down.
If anything, when he hears the whistle, he grabs
Cody
Barton by the back of the jersey,
and
says, "Let him go."
Off. Yeah.
I mean, look, I know heat of the moment. Blah 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 blah. It's game awareness.
Yep.
And I will continue to preach game awareness, knowing when you're in field goal range, knowing when it's 3rd down, knowing when it's time to take a chance, knowing when it's not. The great teams all have great game awareness, and they got to have better game awareness.
And the pre-snap penalties, Jeffrey Simmons gave Denver a 1st down in the red zone.
3rd and
on a
5.
3rd and 5.
3rd and 5.
Right.
So when are they going to go hard count on you? When it gets you a 1st down.
Yep.
All right. So again,
that can't happen.
Game awareness.
And on the offensive side, the play before the Tony Pollard fumble, which who knows what the play call would have been if you don't get the false start on Kevin Zeitler. Like, Jeffrey Simmons and Kevin Zeitler, those cannot be the guys who are hurting the team with penalties.
Yep.
Those are your veteran guys who have to be better. So I think with Callahan, I'm going to go with the 6, because not only was the decision-making bad, the Iron Manor challenge, the end of first half sequence. Where
See, that's the one. That's the one I'm most upset
That's the
about.
worst one. I mean, you took 8 seconds off the clock
Uh,
with 47 seconds left.
There's nothing about that in his reasoning for it. I think it was Steve Lehman asked him, were you aggressive because you wanted to give yourself more room to punt? And he's like, yeah. Well, that doesn't make any sense because that's what you're saying. You weren't looking to score. They only had 2 timeouts.
Right.
Take 3 knees and go to the locker room.
Or if you want to try and move the ball, put it in Tony Pollard's hands at least once on that drive. That way you at least force the Broncos to call timeout, or you can run 40 seconds off the clock and then take it into the locker room.
Okay. Again, I can't believe no one on the staff didn't run down and tackle him and take his play sheet away.
Well,
all right.
that-
I don't understand that decision making at all. There's I get a text from Joe Rexroad saying, the answer doesn't make any sense on the Iomanner thing. Fine. There's no answer that makes any sense at all on what they did before halftime.
And the funniest part was, and we'll never get an answer on whether Brian Callahan called a play on offense after the Chimdike kickoff, but it looked like he did. Cam Ward was walking onto the field. He was looking back at the sideline, and Bones Fossil was sprinting down the sideline, putting up 3.
Yeah.
And thankfully, he was able to make sure the offense didn't go back out there.
Now, you could have run out there and spotted the ball and called timeout.
Right. Yeah. They had a timeout. It wouldn't have been
like if Sly wanted the ball somewhere else.
Yeah. You just have Cam Ward dive and
yes.
So maybe that was it, but it looked like Cam Ward was walking out there to call play. And I'm like, you got 6 seconds. What exactly will that accomplish?
That would have been the perfect finish if they'd gotten no points out of that.
Yeah. Yeah. if they gave the Broncos 7 points, then miraculously were handed 3 and still couldn't end up putting anything on the board.
Yeah.
7988. When asked about the panic meter, says disappointment high. Panic. I mean, at this point, it's hard to panic. This is about being halfway through the time allotment of a terminal diagnosis. And then he goes, seriously, though, panic is mid. Murderous rage on losing from own mistake or with the score again, very high.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think maybe panic's not the right word, but frustration.
Well, again, for me, 2 aspects are improved. But the thing you focused on the entire offseason, not improved.
Yep.
Not improved. And so that's very concerning for me. All right. And the offensive line, do I think they'll get better? Yes, I do. But that's concerning for me. And the coach is 3-15. That's concerning for me. And so at some point, you can't just be nice and say, oh, it's a 3. I think they'll get it figured out.
Yep.
I mean, the fact that I think he's a nice guy and a hardworking guy, and I think people respect him, those are things that all weigh in his favor. But I mean, I'll be honest with you. If this is Ken Wisenhunt and we're sitting here where we are, my panic meter's like a 9 or a 10.
Yeah.
But that's because I worked with Ken Wisenhunt and I heard the things he had to say. And it would have been a 9 or 10.
Yeah. And we're around a 6. I think that's about fair. And if he has a couple of good games in a row, that hot seat will start to cool off a little bit. And I think the panic meter falls, but he has to show improvement.
Well, yes. In UK. You remember Will Levis after the Bears game?
Yeah.
There was a lot that was good in that game. First half, they were up 17-0. And Levis in the offense looked really good.
Yep.
You think, wow, they're onto something here. And then the second half's a disaster. And he makes the mistake and blah, 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 blah. So, and then he repeats it against the Jets. This is my point. This week against the Rams, if Brian Callahan has another situation where everyone is questioning his decision-making ability, his knowledge of the rules, his offensive decision-making before. If he has another one of those that blows up on him, it's going to be really tough for him to escape that narrative.
This is a massive week for Brian Callahan.
He's got to have a very good week.
Everything has to be better. Play calling, decision-making, penalties, everything has to be better.
He needs to not be a part of the equation.
Yes. If we're not talking about Brian Callahan on Monday, then
it's a success.
It's a good week
okay.
For Brian Callahan. 615-737-1025. We're going through our panic meter on the Titans. 2 other things that I think you could qualify as big reasons why the Titans lost on Sunday. Calvin Ridley's drops and the offensive line. How concerned are we with both of those on the Titans offense? We'll get to that next. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. 1025 The Game has teamed up with Pella Windows and the Nashville Humane Association for a puppy pet adoption this Saturday at Pella, 256 East Main Street in Hendersonville from 10 to noon. For more details, visit thegamenashville.com/events. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis from News 2, Parker Kelly with you on this Wednesday. We are going through our panic meter on the Titans. We started with Brian Callahan. Before we get into some of the other issues from Sunday, let's go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
wow.
Bob is on the line wanting to talk about Brian Callahan. Bob, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, guys. I got two things here. I'll do one and then the other. First one, you talk about the panic meeting, everybody worried. The only person I'm worried about right now is I don't care about the media, I don't care about the fans. My concern is how much of a panic or concern or lack of faith will Cam have in Callahan if this keeps happening? And then the second part is, I know you probably going to grill me for this, but after all the drops on Sunday, what would be the harm of seeing what Restrepo could do? At least he seems to be able to catch the ball. He may not be the fastest or the biggest, but he can catch the ball. That's all I got.
Thanks for the call, Bob. Yeah, I don't know about Restrepo.
I don't know that he was the difference. I mean, I understand. I mean, because I think I said, hey, at this point, I'm ready just to roll out the rookies and see what they can do.
Yeah.
Because it's frustrating because we saw some drops from Calvin to start early last year. I know we're going to get to that in a second. So, look, he's like seventh. I'd like to see more Bryce Oliver.
Right.
I'd like to see more of him. But we'll see where we are. The Cam thing, Cam has preached wanting to have stability.
Right.
And so I think it's a reasonable question, because if Cam doesn't trust the guy sending him the plays, that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. But I think Cam right now is probably more focused on the guys in front of him and them working as a cohesive unit to get protection worked out.
I don't know if I'm worried about Cam Ward losing trust in Brian Callahan specifically, but maybe some of the veteran players, if Callahan continues to struggle to put them in good situations, it's like, hey, you cannot be the reason we lose. And we've said that before. So I don't know after 1 week that's going to happen, but he's got to turn it around fast. Back to our panic meter. Bob mentioned the drops. Mm-hmm. Calvin Ridley, he had at least 2 drops on Sunday. You could argue 3, and they all came on plays that would have been at least first downs, if not more. What is your panic level 1 to 10 on Calvin Ridley this season? Do you think that is going to be an issue throughout the year, or is it just a bad game?
I'm going to say a 5, and a 5 for the same reason.
Yeah.
All right, because it happened last year. So disappointing that it happened last year and now it's happening again. But what brings it down is he got it fixed last year. So hopefully it doesn't take him as long to get it fixed this year. Again, when you are a $20+ million player, you need to be a reason they win and not a reason that they lose. All right. Hugely disappointing.
Yep.
All right. I'm sure Calvin is hugely disappointed in himself. He is an upfront guy. And I'm sure if I'd been in the post game, he would have said, I wasn't good enough today. CeeDee Lamb dropped those 3 passes. And he knew he let his team down. So it's a concern, and it's a concern because it's a repeat offense.
Yeah. I'll go a little lower. I'm going to say a 3 on Calvin Ridley. It was a bad game. And if you're looking for reasons the Titans lost on Sunday, he is for sure towards the top of the list. He's not at the top of the list, but he's towards the top of the list. And that's not just the drops. If he does catch that screen pass, maybe the Titans don't give up that touchdown at the end. The Callahan decision-making is
and it's
the
not
big
that
problem.
It's not that he didn't catch it. It's
that
he wasn't in position to catch it, which is an even worse mistake because that's a preparation. That's a sin. Right?
Yes, that a mental error, an ME.
Dropping the ball happens, It's not great, but it happens. But not being in position to make the play, that's a bigger problem.
Yes. The physical mistakes hopefully will sort itself out. Calvin Ridley gets some extra work in with Cam Ward this week, goes on the jugs machine. Hopefully it's not an issue. I'm going to go with a 3, but if it happens again this week and he is not a bigger factor, because he's not going to have Pat Surtain on him all week this week. Like
No.
the Rams secondary is fine, but it's not the Broncos
They
secondary.
just did hold the Texans to 9 points.
Right. No, it's good. Good defense, but you don't have the defensive player of the year staring you
that's
across
true.
the line of scrimmage.
That's true. And that can speed things up for you big time.
Right. So Calvin Ridley's got to have a better game this week, but I'm not super concerned for the long term with him quite yet.
But I'm concerned about the consistency.
Right. Yeah. And that's fair. And we'll see if Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley, I mean, the whole conversation all offseason was how great their relationship and their chemistry was. And they not only weren't on the same page, but Calvin Ridley just could not catch the ball on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with the 3. I don't think it's quite as big of a concern as what we saw from Brian Callahan. We're going to get to the offensive line. We'll do that coming up next. We're also going to get into some college football. We've been talking about the 2 big games across the state all week long. Vols taking on Georgia, Vandy at South Carolina.
Both underdogs.
And
I like them both.
We're going to talk about who has a better chance to win this weekend and whose win would be a bigger win if they're able to pull it off. We'll do that coming up in the next hour, but we continue with the Titans Panic Meter coming up next. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Second hour, next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, joined by Cory Curtis from News 2, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We're going to get into some college football this hour. Vols and Vanderbilt both with huge games this weekend. Tennessee taking on Georgia in Knoxville. Vanderbilt on the road looking to snap a 16-game losing streak against South Carolina, which would get them to 3-0 and likely back into the AP Top 25. We'll get into that coming up next, but wrapping up our segment here on the Titans Panic Meter. We've talked Brian Callahan, Calvin Ridley. The other big issue on Sunday, the offensive line. And we've kind of skirted around it a little bit, talk about Dan Moore. I'm a little bit concerned about this offensive line. Dan Moore, the chart came out of amount of pressures, pressure rate, and all this. And Dan Moore was just at the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
I think it was pass rush win rate and PFF pass blocking grade or something, and he was all the way at the bottom. So how concerned are you about the Titans offensive line after week one? Gave up 6 sacks, and Cam Ward was hit 12 times in his debut.
We've talked about how sometimes this can be a work in progress, but we've been talking about that for 3 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty much since Lawan's knee blew out the second time.
Now, there are the pieces there to what we believe can be a good group. Now, J.C. Latham is dinged. And this was something that happened in the preseason as well. So, we're not past it. We're not past it. So you got Latham was not 100%, and you got Moore who struggled out of the gate. And I'm more apt to say a 3 because I think they'll get it figured out. But again, like I said, Brian Callahan at 3-15, we're on year 4 of this thing. So I'm going to say a 6. I'm at the point they got to prove it to me. Do I think they can? Yeah, I do. But I need to see it. I also know, as much as I like Zeitler and I like the Zeitler signing, he didn't have a great camp.
Yeah.
He had his hands. I mean, look, a lot of people have their hands full with Jeffrey Simmons, but he had his hands full with Jeffrey Simmons. And so, they've got a lot of guys who've got to play better. And can they play better? Yes. Have some of them proven they can play better? Yes. But one's got to get healthy. One's got to play better. All right. Now, Skoronski scored off the charts in that thing.
Right.
But he was the only one.
Yes.
And we all thought Skoronski would be the best one of the group this year. So
agreed.
Good to see him leading the way. I've always thought Latham would be the leader of that group because I think it suits his personality.
Yeah.
Peter might need to take that mantle. He might need to say, guys, follow me. I don't know if that's him or not. He's an upfront talking guy.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's that leader guy. He might be. But I think he needs to be. Because he's the one getting it done right now.
Yeah. And with J.C. Latham, the way Brian Callahan talked about it on Monday, it didn't sound promising. It sounded like he's probably not going to play this week. And who knows after that?
Well, the thing is, when you're a tackle, you've got to have that lateral movement.
Right.
I mean, if he was a guard, it might be something he could fight through. But when you've got a kick to the outside, and everybody's got everybody but the Titans has 2 pass rushers now.
Yeah.
And so, they're going to come after you, and especially if they know you can't move.
Yeah, and you look at this defense for the Rams: Braden Fisk and Poona Ford, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, and Jared Verse.
Yep.
Like that, it's not going to be much easier for this offensive line than it was last week. I know that Nick Benito is. I mean, he was awesome on Sunday,
and they blitzed the heck out of him.
Yep.
And I'll be interested to see if the Rams are that aggressive this week.
I would probably go. I'll go a 4, maybe a 5 on the offensive line with the concern level.
Is that higher than you thought it would be?
Yeah, especially heading into week one. I thought I didn't think they were going to be great on Sunday because, again, it is a good Denver defense.
But you didn't think you'd have the jailbreaks that you did.
Right. Like towards the end of the game, it kind of felt like Cam Ward. It's just like
Chuck and Duck.
See if you can just get the ball off.
It was like shades of like Houston Texans first year in the league.
Right.
It's like, look out.
I'm concerned, and At some point, Bill Callahan's got to prove that he's the O-line guru. Like they've given him talent.
Yes.
Those guys are all talented.
They should be able to get it done with the group that they've got this year.
Right.
They should.
Like you give him Nicholas Petit-Frere, and it's like, all right, well, maybe nobody could turn Nicholas Petit-Frere into a good right tackle.
Look, you have to have combatants.
Yes.
All right. He's got 5 combatants. All right. And as I've said, it can take a few weeks into the season to make that orchestra play. So I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying I've been waiting for this for a while.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be foolish of me to not be more concerned.
Yes. We got a texter 7988 says offensive line 9 could be talked into an 8 or a 10. 3 years I'm past patience, like you said, and have no faith in legendary O-line coach Bill Callahan. He says, if I was the offensive coordinator, I would call plays as if there was no offensive line. That's basically what it was at the end of the game. I saw this text earlier, and I thought it was interesting. 7410 says, need one of you guys to answer this question for me.
Okay.
If Brian Callahan gets let go at some point this season, mid-season, they have to go to an interim coach. Does Bill Callahan leave at the same time?
That is a very interesting question.
I would say yes.
It would be very difficult for him to stay. Now he's a professional. He's been doing it for a long time.
Right.
So maybe his allegiance to the guys that he's coaching keeps him there.
That's a good point.
So, and I think he understands the politics, but he also understands who his son is. So that's difficult to say.
Yeah,
it is. I do think the interim head coach, and look, we're not
we're not at that point. Yes.
But if you're asking who would be the interim head coach, it's probably Bones Fossil.
Yeah. Mike McCoy is kind of the analyst there. It's one of those two who have somewhat head coaching experience.
Fossil has done it before. He did it with the Rams when Jeff Fisher got fired. So he's been in that position before and a wildly respected guy.
Yep.
So, he's popular, with connecting. With
I would guess Bones Fossil ends up being the pick if we get to that point.
If we get to that point, let's hope that they're 7-1 and we're like, remember we were talking about what happened with Calgary? Okay. But it's just like talking about the third quarterback on Sunday. Who's the third quarterback?
Yeah.
You don't ever want to get there, but you got to be realistic and say, who is it? Is it Johnny Hecker, by the way?
Yeah, I would guess so, right? Because Mason Kinsey was the emergency, but he's
Tyler Boyd was.
Right, Tyler Boyd too. Yeah. I think it would have to be Johnny Hecker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Former quarterback.
In terms of Brian Callahan being fired, I find it hard to imagine Bill Callahan would just be like, sorry, son, I'm going into work on Monday. I think it's probably going to be a package deal with them. We have a couple texters saying Denard Wilson should be the interim. That kind of puts you in the same spot you are now, where it's like you feel like Brian Callahan's overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Wouldn't Denard Wilson kind of be overwhelmed with trying to run the defense and be a head coach for the first time in his career?
Well, and then you've got a guy who's not really running his defense; he's running the team. And then if Callahan's gone, you've got Nick Holtz running the offense, and we all know he's really not the one running the offense right now. So you're weakening 2 spots. And that's generally not what they want to do. And that's what you don't see that very. I would have to see the numbers on it on who actually gets elevated, but a lot of times it's a special teams coach,
right?
Or Mike Mularkey was the tight ends coach, but he was a former head coach, and so that's why you look on staff and you say who's got the experience to pull them through what is a tumultuous situation.
Yeah,
and that's why I just. McCoy, Bones Fossil.
You typically don't want to put one of your play callers in that role.
You don't want to weaken an aspect of your team.
Right.
If you don't have to.
So, yes, I would say it's Bones Fossil, it's Mike McCoy. But again, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
I think Brian Callahan's got minimum a month and a half left to figure this out. Minimum. The Patriots game, as funny as it would be to see him get fired after the Patriots game.
Okay, there's nothing funny.
There's nothing funny.
There's
but
nothing funny
as typical, I guess I could say,
yes.
like where you kind of chuckle at it of course.
Well, it's because Robinson gets fired after the
Eagles game. Yes.
And that's why we're all pointing at that game. If Vrabel comes in and pantses him, it's going to be embarrassing.
Yes. And that as much as we've joked about, what if he got fired after the Patriots game, I think that's the earliest it could happen. I think the
Yes.
bye week is probably where they make a decision one way or the other.
Look, if they're winless after the Patriots game,
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of talk.
Yep. And it is tough to it's tough to look at this after week 1, and I know it probably is an overreaction at this point because it is 1 week, but Brian Callahan has dug himself a hole.
Yeah.
This is the week he's got to start digging at it.
And it's a shame because he put his team in position to win a game they weren't supposed to win. And so instead of getting credit for that, he's being torn down for getting in the way of it.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, as a coach or as a referee, you don't ever want to be in the spotlight.
Right. There are a lot of positions, being a ref or an umpire, head coach, even like long snapper or punter.
Yes.
Like those are the big, like if you don't notice them,
they're
doing
great.
a good job.
Yeah. Like Peter Skronsky, nobody talked about Peter after the game because he had a good game.
Right. Peter Skronsky played well. And, hopefully that is signs to come of him becoming the all-pro guard that you drafted him to be at 11th overall. Tommy with a hot take on the text line before we move off the Titans. I know we're all upset, but I think we're overreacting. Fair. This team looks good. I'm very confident we win the division at least.
Wow.
Very confident.
That's a hot take.
I think the team will be better than they looked on Sunday. I think the offense will figure some things out.
Yes, because I think Cam is too good to not improve as the year goes along.
But I don't think winning the division is a realistic goal. I think this team, my expectations for the team have not changed based on Sunday because I thought they were going to lose that game on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
But if things look the same way as they did Sunday, then we have a problem. I don't think they will on against the Rams. I think they're going to improve some things. I don't think they win the game against the Rams, but I hope we're not having the same conversation about Callahan and Ridley in the offensive line next week.
The crazy thing about the NFL, and this is where I can lean on being old, is I've seen a lot of things. I've seen the Titans be 1-4.
Yeah.
And Vince Young goes in and they go on a run. All right. I've seen them start 0-6 and lose 59-0 in New England and then get back to 500. I mean, we always talk about the difference between good and bad, and the difference between winning and losing is not very much.
Yep.
And we can point to this game as a perfect example. We brought up a couple of plays that if they actually execute those, and those aren't on Brian Callahan, they're on the players, that they win the football game. And, so it's possible. I would take that bet on winning the division.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even blink about it. And that's because they were the worst team in football last year.
Yes.
And I do not think all of their problems are fixed.
I know there is always a team that goes from worst to first.
Yes.
Don't think it's going to be the Titans. Don't think it's going to be the Patriots either.
Nope.
Who are they were the popular pick.
Well, they were the Vrabel pick. Yeah.
Yes.
The national media loves them some Mike Vrabel.
Yes. And they are 0-1 after losing to the Raiders at home on
That's
Sunday.
a bad loss, by the way.
Yeah. Only scored 10 points, too. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get back to the Titans in a little bit here, but it also is a huge week of college football. And we've talked about it each of the last 2 days about these two games in the state. Vanderbilt on the road at South Carolina, the Vols hosting Georgia at home. Huge games for both teams. Who needs it more? Maybe a better question is, whose win would be bigger if they can pull it off, and who has a better chance on Saturday in two huge matchups? We'll get to that next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. This week's Nashville's best deal is Mellow Mushroom. Mellow Mushroom Pizza is stone baked with fresh ingredients, next level imagination, and limitless options for customization. It's a higher order of pizza. You know and love Mellow Mushroom. Now get half off a $30 gift card while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. The Commodores are on the road again and will face ranked South Carolina this Saturday. Pregame at 5 o'clock, kickoff at 6:45. Vanderbilt football is brought to you by Gary Force Acura and Smoky Mountain Tops. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis from News 2, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Let's get to some college football here. We will get back to the Titans later on in the show as they prepare for the Rams. First day of practice this week. We'll get an injury report later this afternoon as well. Should get some clarity on J.C. Latham. But Saturday, 2 massive games in the state. Vanderbilt on the road at South Carolina. Vanderbilt coming off a blowout win over Virginia Tech, outscoring the Hokies 34-0 in the second half. Tennessee's look good. They'll face Georgia in Neyland. They beat Syracuse, who Syracuse didn't look all that good this
The
weekend.
coach made them run after the game.
They almost lost to UConn.
They ran sprints. It was just like Herb Brooks.
So, maybe Syracuse not quite as talented of a team as maybe we thought heading into the year.
Yeah, they're a disappointment.
But did handle business in a big way against ETSU. Put up 75 points in that game. 72. There were some teams that put up 75 this week. We saw a lot of blowouts this weekend. But 2 big games coming up. Who do you think has a better chance, Cory?
Okay, is that what we're starting with?
Let's start with that. Who do you think has a better chance to pull off the win? Both are underdogs by
3.5 and 5.5.
Yeah, 3.5, 5.5.
Vols are getting 3.5. Vandy's getting 5.5.
Right. Vols at home, Vanderbilt on the road. Both these teams, the expectations for both these teams go to a different stratosphere with a win. With Tennessee, it goes from maybe they're on the outskirts of the playoffs to this is a playoff team. For Vanderbilt, it goes from good start to the year to this team's a top 20 team in the country.
This team is now in the playoff conversation.
Right. You're going
if things continue to go right. You're in position. You're 3-0.
Right. And you would hope with games at home against Georgia State and Utah State the next couple weeks, you hope you head into Tuscaloosa 5-0.
If you go 7-2 the rest of the way, if you win this one, you're in the playoffs.
Yep. So
that's it.
Who do you think has a better chance?
I'm going to go with Vanderbilt. Even though they've lost 16 in a row to the Gamecocks.
2008 is the last time they beat South Carolina.
From that aspect, they're due. Okay, number one, mathematically, they're due. But they handled Virginia Tech a lot easier than Vanderbilt did. I mean, than South Carolina did, and they did it on their home field. And I think the bottom line is South Carolina's not playing that well. They're not playing that well.
Right.
They rumbled with Virginia Tech. They made some great plays. I mean, Lenore Sellers made an outstanding scramble, hit a guy with a dime for a long touchdown. They had a huge punt return, but that was it. I mean, those 3 plays were the game. Whereas Vanderbilt just took it to them, and then South Carolina wasn't great beating South Carolina State. That's a 1AA team. So I like Vanderbilt because I think the Pavia magic is real. I think they believe they can win this game. Beamers are always known for special teams. Who's the best special teams in the SEC last year?
Vanderbilt. Okay.
So I don't think that's going to lose them the game. All right. Now I say that and they'll give up 2 punt returns, but I think if they at a minimum can break even on special teams with South Carolina. I think the other issue, look, I love Lenore Sellers, so don't get me wrong on that. He's outstanding. But South Carolina's struggling up front. Their offensive line is not performing well, and Vanderbilt is too deep on the defensive line for the first time that I can ever remember. And so I think that they can give South Carolina problems, and they can be there in the fourth quarter because they now have the depth to rotate guys.
Yep.
All right? And so that and Pavia Magic and special teams makes me say, I like Vanderbilt. I'll take the 5.5 points. I don't need the 5.5 points. I think Vanderbilt's a straight up winner on Saturday.
Yeah, I will go Vanderbilt as well because I think South Carolina is a little overrated because of their quarterback.
There's a lot to like about them, and the quarterback is the reason they're ranked number 11. They have not performed to number 11. Now, there are other teams you can say that about, but they dropped last week. They won and dropped. Okay, so they didn't impress anybody.
I think Vandy just has a way about them. They're going to be in the game at the end. Like last year when they played South Carolina, they lost by 3 touchdowns, but it wasn't a 21-point game most of that time, and South Carolina scored a couple times at the end, and Pavia was hurt at that point. I think a healthy Diego Pavia makes this Vandy team a team that can punch with anybody.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think South Carolina, like, Sellers makes them sellable in the AP polls. Like, oh, they got one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
He's a top 10 pick.
But is the rest of the unit around him a top 11 program in the country? Probably not.
Well, they're not performing like it
Right.
at
They
this
could
point.
be.
They could be. If they, I mean, look, they've got athletes. There's no question about that. I
Yeah.
mean, the Harbor kid can really go, and he's a problem. And so, but they've got some stuff they've got to get together. But I think Beamer has been a lot better hire
Yeah.
than South Carolina gave them credit for when they hired him. There was a lot of criticism of that
Right.
hire, and he has hugely outperformed. And I think when I think a lot about college football and perception is understanding who you are,
Right.
and where you are. All right. And, you're not Alabama. And I think Ole Miss needs to understand this.
Yeah.
Know who you are. When you're 10-2 at Ole Miss, that's a great year.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Don't bemoan that you weren't 11-1, 12-0. You're Ole Miss.
Yeah.
All right. And so South Carolina, 8-4, 9-3,
It's a great
10-2.
year.
Those are great years. You're getting to Shane Beamer had a great year last year. He had them on the cusp of the playoffs. You could argue they could have been in the playoffs. I think that's a huge success for them. Now, he's got a team that can be there this year. He's got a, if they don't make it this year, it's probably disappointment.
Yeah,
Probably
coming off a 9-3 year, and you bring
And
back the quarterback, and
So-
they also have Stewart on the defensive line, who he'll probably be a first round pick too. It's like the star power is there for
Yes,
the
it
South
is.
Carolina team.
And that's my point of they could win this game and they could win it by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to play much better than we've seen to this point. And so I'm going on what we've seen. And what I've seen is Vanderbilt playing a lot better than South Carolina right now.
And Vandy, they just handled a tough environment on the road.
They were down.
Right. Down 20-10.
In
and
Blacksburg. That's a tough spot to be.
Do have to say it was disappointing, and I pointed this out to Andrew Allegretta from the booth on Saturday, that half the student section cleared out at halftime, up by 10 against an SEC team. Like,
that is disappointing.
The diehards who were in the north end zone, which is where the main student section is, they all stayed. But there's the satellite student section, which is over on the east side, and half of that was gone after halftime. It's disappointing. I mean, but that's what Virginia Tech football has become.
Yeah,
and Vandy,
it shows you where the program's at.
Vandy dominated.
Because apathy's a problem,
right? And Vanderbilt 321 yards to 21 in the second half.
Somebody asked me what does Vanderbilt need Pavia to do in this game? Do they need him to not turn the ball over? I'm like, no, they need him to be Pavia.
Yeah.
Just he has earned that trust.
Yeah.
You do your thing. He may turn it over once, but you know what he's also going to do? He's going to make a hell of a lot of plays.
Yes.
So
and
you go be you, and you bring the rest of the team up with you, because that's what he does.
It's going to be a big game on Saturday, 6:45 night game in Columbia.
It'll be rocking.
Vanderbilt has an opportunity to prove that they belong in the playoff conversation, and that is where they will be.
How old were you the last time Vanderbilt beat them? 16 years ago, 2008.
I was 8.
You were 8 years old.
I was born in 99, so
wow.
Or 8 or 9. So yeah, they're due. Like you said, they're due. Tennessee has also not beaten Georgia in a while.
Yep.
2016 was the last time Tennessee beat Georgia. We'll talk about that game coming up next. And do we think Tennessee can prove themselves as a true, not just playoff contender, but maybe an SEC contender if they win this game on Saturday? We'll do that next. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis from News 2, Parker Kelly with you, talking some college football. As it's a big week in the state of Tennessee. I don't know if you can look around and find a collective week for both these programs together as big as this one in a long time. Tennessee, you're number 15 in the country. You're 2-0. Joey Aguilar has proven that he can be a quarterback who can run this system effectively. But now you run into Georgia.
It's a different deal.
We talked about Vanderbilt and South Carolina. For Tennessee this week, I think the second question I was going to ask is which win would be bigger?
Yep.
And for Vanderbilt, it always seems to happen with Vanderbilt that when Vandy wins a big game, the talk is more about that South Carolina lost or South Carolina may not be as good.
They might be past that.
Maybe. And we'll see if Vanderbilt wins on Saturday. But with Tennessee, if you beat Georgia for the first time since 2016, that people are going to look at Tennessee differently this year.
Sure.
It goes from...
But they're already ranked 15th.
Yes.
So they're already in the playoff conversation.
Right.
Where Vanderbilt, if you win this game, you are now in the playoff conversation. Yeah. Okay. So to me, it's a much bigger win for Vanderbilt. Also, Vanderbilt probably can't survive this loss. I mean, look, if they go 11-1, they're going to survive it.
You'd have to,
but Tennessee can survive a loss to Georgia and still make the playoffs.
Right. If Vanderbilt loses to South Carolina on Saturday, if playoffs is the goal, you have to probably beat 2 out of the 3 of LSU, Texas, Alabama at that point,
and Tennessee, by the way.
Right, and Tennessee. So you probably have to win 2 or 3 out of those 4.
You got to win 3 out of 4,
to have any kind of chance.
And that's tough. So if you can win this one, that takes some of the pressure off of you in those games because you can drop 2 of them now,
right,
and go 10-2 and get to the playoffs. So again, I think it's a much bigger win for Vanderbilt.
That is a good point
because this is a top 11 team right now that doesn't feel like a top 11 team, but it can be a marquee victory for you. And it wouldn't get you to 1-0. It wouldn't get you to 2-1. It would get you to 3-0. They would be ranked probably between 19 and 25.
Yep.
Even though they only got 1 vote this week.
Right. And you have 2 games against non-power conference teams coming up. I know you lost to Georgia State last year. I think they're going to be ready for that one coming up next week.
So you're looking at the real possibility. We're not putting the cart before the horse, but the real possibility is if they win this game, they're 5-0.
Yep. And you go to Alabama, which is going to be tough. But if you're 5-0 going to Alabama, you're probably a top 15 team in the country at that point. If teams
certainly top 20.
Start falling.
Yeah.
And I heard Chase and Big Joe discussing this yesterday. If you're 5-0 going to Alabama and you even just play them close and you go 5-1, does game day come to Nashville for Vandy LSU 2 weeks later?
Depends on what the other games are.
Let's see.
But I mean, I guess it's certainly a possibility. It's tough coming off of a loss, but Vandy at 5-1, LSU,
and there'd be a bye week in between there, I believe. So maybe a week to
pump it back up again.
Right. You forget a little bit about it. Let's see. Other games that weekend. So you got LSU Vandy. The issue is, and I guess they can still do it. It is an early start. Because of the way they formatted it.
Is it 11?
Noon or 1 p.m. Eastern time. So that would be tough.
Well, I mean, that game day goes off the air.
Right. You got Ole Miss, Georgia that weekend.
That's
Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama. It's the 3rd weekend in October.
Tennessee, Alabama would be an easy pick. Yep.
And
especially if Alabama beats
USC, Notre Dame would be the only other big one.
So if Alabama runs the table to that week, it's probably going to be Tennessee, Alabama.
Right. That's a good point.
Because the whole thing could be I don't know who Alabama's got on the schedule, but does Kalen DeBoer
they do have Georgia before that.
Okay. Too. Yeah. So if they were to beat Georgia, I think it would be back there. And the whole thing is, does Kalen DeBoer have it fixed? Blah, 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 blah. By the way, so we're talking about Georgia. Are we sold on Georgia? I mean,
they haven't looked super impressive.
They've dropped.
Yep.
I mean, they started the year ranked higher than they are now. They're down to number 6. I don't think Gunnar Stockton scares anybody. I think he's averaging like 6-7 yards a pass. And then the shocking stat for me is on defense. Georgia's had defensive players.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in the trenches. They've only got 3 sacks in 2 games. Against Austin Peay
and Marshall.
And
Marshall, that's a Marshall team that, yes, they won the Sun Belt last year, but their coach left for Southern Miss and took all their players with him.
And it's Marshall and Austin Peay. They should be on the court, and those teams are down and throwing the football. and they should be on those teams and on those quarterbacks. And so that's an alarming number to me that they've only got 3 sacks this season. And I'm really interested, because we keep talking about Joey Aguilar, but the thing with Joey Aguilar is he allows Tennessee to play fast.
Yeah.
And so, Josh Heupel's in his comfort zone again. All right. And he's going to get to play Georgia fast on what should be a very warm day. And
yeah, it's going to be hot this weekend.
So if they can churn that thing out like they've been doing it, now doing it against Georgia is a lot different than ETSU and against Syracuse. So if they kind of hit a wall on offense, I think we all have to be realistic about that. But I still think there's something to be said for operating the way you want to operate, because we saw Joe Milton go against Austin Peay, and I think he threw for less than 100 yards.
Yeah.
So, either you can run it or you can't. And right now, Joey Aguilar can run it.
Going to be an interesting game on Saturday. We went through
I'll take Tennessee in the points, by the way.
Plus 3.5. Yeah.
I don't need the points with Vandy. I'll take the points with Tennessee.
I think it's going to be a close game. And that is saying something, considering we went through the last 8 games.
Yeah.
They have not been within 14 against Georgia in the last 8 years.
Look, before the season, if you asked me about this game,
right,
I would take Georgia.
Yeah.
And I would still pick Georgia to win because they're Georgia.
Yeah.
But I don't think they've been just hands down, wow, this is national championship Georgia. Because I think there are questions. I think Gunnar Stockton's a big question.
From what we've seen, Tennessee has looked more impressive than I think we would have expected.
Yes.
And Georgia has looked less impressive.
Yes.
So it's going to be a great Saturday. And I said it yesterday. I love that it works out that you can watch the Tennessee game at 2:30, watch it all the way through, and then Vandy, South Carolina, no overlap. There are some other good games on Saturday night. LSU, Florida, Billy Napier coaching for his job again. And Notre Dame, Texas A&M. That's a big one too. If Notre Dame loses that
They're
one,
in trouble.
You're 0-2.
Yeah.
Like they didn't play last week.
Yeah.
So
no, it's a big game for
you
Notre
have to
Dame.
win out at that point.
Now,
if you're
they
Notre
handled
Dame.
them last year.
They did.
And so it's going to be interesting.
And this one is in South Bend.
Okay.
So,
but that's kind of must-win territory, because do they play Clemson this year?
Let me see. Notre Dame.
By the way, Clemson, another team not impressing anyone
Yeah,
at this point.
For Notre Dame, you can't start 0-2. You really can't. If you do,
look, if they went 10-2, they would still make the
still
playoffs.
get in. So they don't have a ton of tough games left on their schedule. You look at the rest of their schedule. At Arkansas, it's an SEC opponent. Boise State didn't look very good.
Nope.
USC, and then you've got NC State, Pitt, Syracuse. So
they don't have Clemson.
They don't have Clemson. They don't have another ranked opponent on the schedule the rest of the year. So not out of the question that they could go 10-2 even if they lose on Saturday.
Yeah, but I think that the strength of those victories could weigh on them at 10-2.
Yeah.
I mean, that's possible depending on how everything else lines up.
Right.
But if they win this game, we're looking at a real chance at 11-1 and Notre Dame coasts in.
Yes. And they don't have the safety blanket of the automatic bid, but if they go 11-1, they're in. 10-2. Yeah, maybe it could be close. Matthew Nashville says, Tennessee is the answer to all your questions. Vandy ending a 15-year losing streak to a South Carolina team is not going to propel them on a path to the playoff. I mean, it at least keeps them on a path.
It has them in the conversation.
Right.
That's not to say they're going to do it. I understand what he's saying, but Tennessee doesn't have to win this game.
Yeah.
And Vanderbilt does.
Right.
That's why I say that.
Right. Matthew Nashville says it's not crazy to think both teams could win this weekend. And I agree.
I agree.
I think it is very possible that Vandy and Tennessee both get wins this weekend.
And it's possible that they both lose.
Right. For sure. And that's why it's going to be a great weekend. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Going to be 2 very entertaining games on Saturday. Georgia and Tennessee, Vanderbilt and South Carolina. Wanted to give Cory an opportunity to talk about his Bears here because Caleb Williams looked really good to start off on Monday night.
Yeah,
and then things fell off. So
I'm going to sound really negative when we talk about this.
We're going to talk about it coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly. Next man up. 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis from News 2. Well done, Parker. We're going to give Cory a chance. You know, he's our Titans guy over at News 2, but he's a Bears fan. Give him a chance to talk Bears. Caleb Williams on Monday night.
Yeah.
After that first drive, I said out loud, I just sitting around, I was like, man, he looked great.
He can hum the football.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. But even after the first drive, I was very concerned with how the ball did not come out quickly.
Yeah.
Now, I know Troy Aikman talked about how he made all of his reads and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, he held onto the ball too much last year. I need to see the ball come out fast. When they played Buffalo in the preseason, he came out, opening drive, ball came humming out on the opening drive, and they went through the field like a knife through butter. And so, yes, they went and scored, but it didn't look the way I was hoping it would look. And you can say you're being nitpicky. Okay, I'm being nitpicky. I expect this guy to be a star. All right. And right now, I have very big concerns that he will not be a star. And I will be looking at the Tyson Bagent era in the coming days.
Yeah. Panic meter on Caleb Williams.
6.
That's fair.
And before the game, it probably would have been a 3.
Yeah.
And look, the numbers, 21 to 35, 210 yards, a touchdown, 6 carries, 98 yards, a touchdown. Those are all good, right? They scored 17 points on offense.
Yep.
And now the Vikings have a good defense. And week 1 can be a liar, but they went a long stretch of that game without being able to convert third downs. And a number of those times are because he just missed people.
Yep. The DJ Moore wide open kind of slot fade, and he missed that one.
4th down to Cole Kmet over the middle and just overshot him. He has, we talked about Amani Hooker. He has to make that completion.
Yep.
That guy's open. You got to put that ball in there, and you've got to make that play. So, and it is only year 2, but look, when he came in, when he was drafted, my concern level was a 0.
Yeah.
All right. I was all about it. And after last year, because he took so many sacks and held on to the football, my concern level became a 3. And now after one game of Ben Johnson, I'm at a 6 because of the inaccuracy and continuing to hold on to the ball too long.
We were talking during the break about how that game just flipped. Like, everybody was ready to take their victory laps on JJ McCarthy when he didn't look good, and he came out firing in the fourth quarter.
He took the victory lap,
and he ended up getting the win. And I gotta say, I wasn't a big fan of JJ McCarthy coming out, and when I saw him struggle and throw that pick 6, I was like, man, this is kind of what I thought it might look like.
Okay, well, so here are his stats. 13 of 20, 143, 2 touchdowns and a pick because he threw a pick 6. Cost his team 6 points. 2 carries, 25 yards and a score. His numbers are
not great,
not near as good as Caleb Williams. But what did he do?
He found a way to win.
And that what do great quarterbacks do?
They find a way to win.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not saying he's great quarterback, but he had the clutch gene in this game. All right. And the clutch gene is a great place to start.
Yeah. Not ready to crown JJ McCarthy, and he's got to play better if the Vikings are going to be a playoff team this year.
But they didn't panic.
Right. And I said this to Nick Frazier yesterday that I do wonder if maybe the start of that was just shaking off some of the rust of he hadn't played a real football game in 18 months.
And the Bears defense, probably pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Probably pretty good.
Is it Odenbo off the edge?
Yeah.
He was wreaking havoc in the backfield.
Yeah.
So I think McCarthy, he looked a lot better than I expected him to, especially down the stretch. With Caleb Williams, it is tough because it's one of those things where you see the talent. You really do.
Yes.
Like
he made a rollout on the sideline
and hit Roma Dunze.
Oh, gosh.
That was a beautiful play. And it's one of those things. It's like, that's why he got drafted number 1 over Jaden Daniels.
I'm like, that's a ridiculous throw.
There are not a lot of guys who can make that play and make it look that easy.
That was kind of like Favre-esque.
Yeah.
I mean, or Elway. Just, on the run and just a missile.
Yeah.
I gave Odunze credit for hanging on to that thing.
It exploded out of his hand.
That was coming out hot.
Yeah. And it was right on the money. And that's what you see from Caleb Williams. But it's just not consistent enough right now.
Yeah, you know what, and this is the bottom line. When we talk about holding on to the ball too long or this or that, he's got to win that game.
Yeah,
He's got to win that game. You're up. You had chances. Your coach gave you chances to make plays to win that game. You've got to win that game. He won me my fantasy game.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm forever grateful.
By a hair.
Last play of the game. The literal last play of the game gave me the victory.
How many points did you win by?
Well, I was down by 0.18.
Okay.
And then I got the completion, and I had both him and Rome
So you won by a
couple points.
Yeah, one or two passing yards to get the win. That draft class from 2023 or 2024, excuse me, that quarterback draft class, I think there was a lot of shock that 6 quarterbacks went in the top 12.
I think Penix and Nix were the big surprises.
Right.
And Nix wasn't great Sunday.
He did not look good.
But he was really good last year.
Yeah.
And, the sample size on Penix is very small, but his numbers are pretty good on Sunday. They got to score more points, though.
He made some plays stretching the ball that, he's an athlete for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't win the game, but he gave them a chance to win the game.
Yep.
And Baker Mayfield just made a couple more plays down the stretch.
And Emeka Egbuka is the star we thought he was.
I picked him last week to be the offensive rookie of the year.
Yeah.
And he's off to a good start.
Look, I don't want to drown people in my fantasy football, but it's just more NFL related.
Yeah.
Just where I was trying to decide for my flex because I had Calvin Ridley because he's the Titans one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, he's playing against,
Patrick Surtain.
And I'm like, I like Egbuka, and everything I've heard is he's been unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm like, I made the switch, and it's because a guy who was the guy you thought he was.
Yeah.
And you don't always know that it's going to happen, but that's what happened.
Right.
And for the NFL, it's awesome.
And that's what it felt like with Egbuka he was just such a safe pick for whoever got him. It was
there were a lot of people here hoping they could get him in round 2.
Yes. Yes.
And then we were like, no, he's not going to.
It became very apparent that he was not making it out of round 1.
Have Ohio State, have any of those receivers busted?
I'm trying to think of anybody. They all turn out to be productive players for the most part.
Yeah. There's Olave.
He's probably been the least productive out of all of them.
And that's because of injury.
Yeah, the concussions have been an
quarterback,
issue.
Garrett Wilson, quarterbacks that have been terrible.
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Who just went. He had half of their offense Sunday.
And
Jackson Smith and Jigba was unbelievable.
You even look back to Michael Thomas. I know he kind of fell off a cliff.
Yeah, but he was spectacular before he got hurt.
Right. Curtis Samuel's been a productive player, but he wasn't
not a
drafted
star
with first round pedigree.
Yeah.
The Ohio State receivers might be one of your safest investments out there. Marvin Harrison Jr. scored a touchdown on Sunday.
I think we all agree that Jeremiah Smith is likely to be a pretty good player on the next level.
There is a chance, and the quarterbacks coming out in that draft, I guess it would be Lagway, and there's one more that would be pretty good.
2 years from now?
Maybe Arch Manning would be in that draft class.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
But if those guys don't prove that they're surefire number 1 picks, Jeremiah Smith could be the number 1 overall pick in that draft.
Oh, that's easy.
If you get a team that doesn't need a quarterback, or if there's not a quarterback worth taking, Jeremiah Smith might be a guy you just run the pick in as soon as you get the first overall pick.
We talked about he could have come out of the draft last year.
Yeah.
And if Cam Ward wasn't the first pick, it was going to be Jeremiah Smith.
Well, and it was funny a couple of years ago when there were a ton of scouts at CJ Stroud's pro day, and he was throwing to Olave and
Garrett Wilson.
Was it Garrett Wilson? Yeah. But Marvin Harrison Jr. was out there too. And I remember seeing a quote from a scout. It was like, it's like seeing next year's Maserati on a dealership and you can't buy it. And is it a hot take to say that Jeremiah Smith is going to be a better prospect than Marvin Harrison Jr.? I don't think it is.
No.
I think Jeremiah,
he's a freak.
He is going to be one of the best wide receiver prospects to come out in a long time.
Yep.
You put him up there with Jamar Chase a couple of years ago. And I know, taking a wide receiver in the top 5 isn't exact. It's not an exact science. Justin Blackmon, Sammy Watkins, Corey Davis, but
yeah, this is a different time. But, and now what we're talking, look, you can say one guy doesn't have anything to do with the next, but the pedigree of these Ohio State guys,
you feel pretty good about.
There's a common thread here. They are already for the NFL.
Yep.
And that's the difference. They're all shown. It's like why has Saban had so many guys? Because they all know he's going to get him to the NFL.
Yeah.
And Ohio State is in that category now, especially at wide receiver, where we will have you ready not just to play in the NFL, but be a star.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like Alabama linemen typically work out, especially on the defensive line. Ohio State wide receivers,
Georgia defensive linemen,
and linebackers, LSU wide receivers and DBs. It's like typically you draft those guys, they end up being pretty good.
Yeah.
So excited to see Jeremiah Smith in the NFL. It's one of those things with him and Ryan Williams that you don't see freshmen play like that, and it's disappointing that you have to wait so long to see them get to the next level.
They're completely different, though. I mean, Ryan Williams more Devontae Smith, right?
Yeah.
And Jeremiah Smith more Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it's a good point.
Just a physical beast.
Right.
And you want to see it.
Yes.
You want to see it. You'd like to see it two-tone blue.
Right.
But it's not going to happen.
But you're hoping the Titans aren't bad enough that
Yeah.
you're picking with a chance to take Jeremiah Smith in a couple of years.
Yeah.
We'll see, though. Who knows? Injuries, anything like that.
That's
you
true.
could end up with a
That's
chance
true.
to take him in a couple of years. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to text or call our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will get back into the Titans when we come back. Starting to look ahead to the Rams. Where do the Titans match up well with LA? Where could they get exploited? We'll do that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Final hour, next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, joined by Cory Curtis from News 2, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Getting back into the Titans this hour, looking ahead to the Rams on Sunday. Home opener this season, first time Cam Ward playing a real game in Nissan Stadium. And it's another tough test for this team. A quick reminder, Teron Davenport going to be on the show tomorrow, so we'll have TD for the full show. We'll go through the Titans and Rams and everything that went down in Denver on Sunday. But, Cory, this Rams team is good. Like, this is a playoff team from last year.
Super Bowl contender for some people.
Experienced quarterback, experienced, talented head coach, and a lot of pieces around him. Let's start on that side of the ball. The Rams offense is good. They got Kyren Williams at running back. They've got Devontae Adams isn't a star anymore, but still a very accomplished.
Well, let's be real. You've got a superstar head coach.
Right.
A Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yep.
There's number 2 receiver is a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah.
Kyren Williams is one of the better running backs in the entire NFL. And Puka Nacua is kind of unstoppable right now. 10 catches for 130 yards. There's a lot that is really good on that side of the ball.
Yes.
Having said that, they just scored 14 points.
They did. And Matthew Stafford has dealt with some back issues throughout the offseason and into training camp. And now both of his starting guards are considered week to week, is the last report I saw with ankle injuries, which when you're week to week, usually that means you're not playing this week.
Yep.
So the Titans, who have talked all offseason about wanting to collapse the pocket from the interior, you now have backups at both guard spots. You'd think Tavondre Sweat is going to play more this week, not being at elevation and having a game under his belt. This is a game that you need to see Sweat and, more importantly, Jeffrey Simmons dominate.
Well, even if one of those guys or both of them play, they're less than 100%.
Yes.
And so you want to see Jeffrey Simmons. And Jeffrey Simmons was very good last week. So, I mean, if he can repeat last week's performance,
yes,
that would be very, very good. They need that from him. All right. He's the best player they have on defense, and he needs to be the best player that they have on defense. And so he has to, that's a matchup you look at. I mean, when we do TN Nation Saturday night, you beat me to the punch. That's already one of the matchups I have circled. It's on our matchup board. Jeffrey Simmons versus, they have to win that one, and they have to win it big. You know, I don't know what condition Matthew Stafford's back is going to be in, but he's not as mobile as he used to be. And the more hits he takes, the better off, you're going to be. The less room you can give Kyren Williams to get rolling, the better off you're going to be. They need to dominate the interior of that offensive line.
Yes. And you look at the offensive line for the Rams. Again, I'm not going to call myself an offensive line expert here, but usually the names you recognize are the ones who are going to be better. Here is who could be starting in the interior offensive line for the Rams on Sunday: Justin Dedich, Coleman Shelton, and Bo Limmer. If anybody out there has heard any of those names, please let me know. That's the matchups you have to win if you're going to have a chance. And if you can stop the run with Sweat and Simmons can be disruptive like he was on Sunday. You mentioned that was one of the best games of Jeffrey Simmons' career in terms of disruption. Like the previous Rams game, he had 3 sacks.
The Bengals playoff game,
he had 3 sacks. But I would say it probably falls into the top 5 to 10 games in Jeffrey Simmons' career. He forced a strip sack. And
he was good. He was good.
He basically forced that Xavier Woods interception too.
Yeah, he was good.
We'll leave the penalties to the side for right now.
No, but look, he was a difference maker for the Titans on the positive side, and he has to be that in this game. Like when they beat the Rams on Monday Night Football, he and Kevin Byard were spectacular.
Yeah,
and they won the football game.
And that was the first game after Derrick Henry's injury when basically everybody out there in the national NFL media and fan base left the Titans for dead, even though they were they 5-3, 5-2 at that point, something like that. And Derrick Henry goes out and is like, oh, well, thanks for coming, Titans. And they go out and beat the eventual Super Bowl champions in prime time, beat them handily, by the way.
Yeah, pantsed them.
So not saying that that's what's going to happen here, but like that was why you won that game, was because Jeffrey Simmons and Kevin Byard made plays for you.
And we talked about that. Like when Amani Hooker gets that opportunity, you have to make that play. What happens in that game if Kevin Byard drops it? You sit there and go, well, he broke up the pass.
Right. Because I think in that game, I think it was only 7-0.
Yeah, it was 14-0 after he made that play.
Yeah.
It was a huge play.
And they really never looked back at that point.
And so yeah, they have to continue to dominate inside. And then, then they got to come up with some touchdowns on offense.
Yes.
All right. They got to come up with some touchdowns. Bottom line, offensive line's got to be better. They've got to be better. They got to give the quarterback more time. Receivers have got to make plays, but they've also got to be able to run the football with more consistency. I think that I don't know what the numbers were, but the Broncos looked like they blitzed into a lot of runs as well. I don't know if the Rams will be that blitz heavy. It'll be interesting to see if they follow suit with that. But they've got a lot of good players up front, like you talked about, Byron Young, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk. I mean, they got a bunch of dudes, and they're going to have to man up and be better than they were against the Broncos.
Yes, they have to find a way to improve. You mentioned the Broncos blitzed into a lot of runs. It felt like, at least in the second half, every time Tony Pollard touched the ball, he was just running into somebody for a 1-yard loss, no gain. That can't happen. You got to establish the run.
Well, and you have to at some point make people pay for blitzing you, because if they are blitzing you, they are taking people out of pass coverage. And that's not just on the quarterback.
Right.
It's on the receivers as well. They got to get open. They got to catch the ball. And if there's 6 people rushing, there's fewer out there to tackle you after you get the catch.
It's true.
So do something with the football. Catch the football. Do something with the football. There are multiple people here who need to help the quarterback out. So if they can do that, they can put more points on the board.
We'll talk more about that side of the football on the other side. Also, some thoughts on L'Jarius Sneed. How much are we going to see him in week 2 after the,
he needs to play.
The first quarter.
He needs to play.
He was on the bench and was not happy about it based on his remarks after the game.
Well, whatever.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. More on the Titans and Rams coming up. Can the Titans stay in this game with a Super Bowl playoff contender in the LA Rams? And, you'd like to not go to 0-2, but it is a tough ask with the Rams coming to Nissan Stadium on Sunday. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly with you on this Wednesday. Next man up here on 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis from News 2, Parker Kelly with you. Getting ready for Titans and Rams on Sunday. Titans 0-1, falling 20-12 to the Broncos on Sunday. They'll be out on the practice field coming up in a little over an hour, and we should get some updates on J.C. Latham and anybody else who may have
Not
suffered
till
an
about
injury.
4:30.
Yeah, right. Injury report fully will come out.
He won't talk about it until the injury report comes out.
Yeah.
And then you won't have to talk about it. So,
I'm sure there will be a question when Brian Callahan speaks coming up here.
If you're asking what our guess is,
I don't think he's going to play on Sunday.
Oh, I don't think he's going to practice.
I don't think he's going to practice today for sure.
Yeah.
My guess would be he's probably questionable for Sunday, and I would say he probably does.
I would guess he's doubtful and he's down. And I look, it may be a couple weeks, but we'll see. We'll see.
The way Brian Callahan talked about it, saying this is something he's been dealing with for a while.
That's the most concerning
thing.
It
doesn't.
It's a long year.
It makes you think that they want to try and fix it. That way it's not something that lingers the rest of the year. So
you've got to have lateral movement. And if your hip is a problem, lateral movement is a problem.
And you saw it even before he left the game. The sack on third down that was almost a safety, he just got beat. Just could not get outside far enough to stop him. Didn't even get a hand on the pass rusher and ended up giving up the sack that almost cost the Titans 2 points. So that we can go there right now with the offensive line. This defensive line is just as good, if not better, than what you saw from Denver on Sunday. Like Jared Verse is defensive rookie of the year. He looks like he's ascending to be one of the better pass rushers.
4.5 sacks. How many did Benito have last year? 13.5.
Did Jared Verse only have 4.5 sacks last year?
Yeah.
Man.
At least that's what I saw.
I guess
I could be wrong.
No, you might be right. I guess
I like the guy. Don't get me wrong. He's a stud.
But as a whole, but
Benito's special.
The rest of Benito is one of the most underrated players in
not anymore.
4.5 sacks. That's it. Wow.
How many Fisk have last year?
Braden Fisk.
They traded up to get him.
They did. They went and got him. There was
pick before the Titans.
There was that run of defensive tackles early in the second round that year.
Didn't they draft him the pick before or the pick after the Titans?
It was the pick after because everybody was looking at if the Rams were going to trade that much to move up because they traded a future second too. Like, why didn't you take that instead?
Because you could have taken that and then still drafted Sweat because they wanted Fisk.
He had 8.5 sacks last year.
Yeah.
So man, yeah. So you look at Fisk, you've got obviously Verse, but Byron Young's a really good player.
Good. Yeah.
Puna Ford, Kobe Turner in the interior. Like those.
Any guy named Puna's dangerous.
You see Puna Ford lining up from you. You probably don't feel pretty good. But it's going to be a tough test, and it's going to be much harder for the Titans to get the offense in rhythm if you've got Ali Udoh out there. I mean, Udoh, I don't think is as big of a disaster as some of the other tackles you've had on the field, but it's not much better.
That bar is low.
The bar is very low. Like Ali Udoh
is low.
I don't think he's a complete turnstile, but he didn't look good on Sunday when he had to handle some of the pressure.
It was tough.
Cam Ward might be in for another long day on Sunday.
Well, and that's where the coach has got to get it done. The coach has got to know, all right, they're coming and they're coming after us. How do we counter it? Because to just do the same thing and say, well, we're going to drop back 7 steps and, the guys have got to hold up. I mean, that's what Ken Wisenhunt would do.
Right.
Well, the 5 guys have got to protect. Well, they can't protect, Ken. All right.
They're just not as good as the other guys out there.
And so, they have to understand they're coming. How do we counter it? How do we make them pay for coming after us? We know this. They're not particularly good at screens. All right.
Yeah.
So
we saw that pretty apparently.
So and I know they work on screens a lot in practice. We're not allowed to talk about a lot about what we've seen, but I don't mind telling you, they work on screens a lot. They should be better.
Paul Karski said earlier today, he was like, they try and run that wide receiver screen a lot. Like that is a play they feel confident in.
Yeah.
And Calvin Ridley just didn't know his assignment on that play.
So, you can screen, you can draw. You got. I think the tight ends need to be a bigger part of the game and a bigger part of the game over the middle. We saw Gunnar Helm to the sideline twice, right?
Yeah.
And I like Gunnar Helm, but I think I'd like to see him and Chig more on the hash marks, turning and running. I mean, we saw Chig had one
on that third and long,
and he got stopped Or no, he got the first down.
He got the first down.
Yes.
That was the one challenge
yeah.
that Sean Payton did not succeed with.
When he challenged it, I'm like, that's a first down.
Right.
I don't know what he's challenging.
There were a lot of bad spots in that game on Sunday, but that one was not one of them.
No, that was definitely a first down.
They got that one right.
But so I think I'd like to see more of drop back, let it fly.
Yep.
Just in rhythm, give them some short targets. If the guys can't catch it, they can't catch it. But to sit back there and let those guys pin their ears back, I don't think that's a sound strategy. Now, I say that, and maybe they put up a wall this week.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can coach that way. I think they have to prove it to you. I mean, I'm sure coaches tell me I'm wrong, and that's fine. But I would be looking to get the ball out of his hands quickly until you can get them on their heels a little bit.
Right.
And then, and believe me, I remember when the Bengals came here that one year when Burrow was hurt and they threw like 19 bubble screens and they just did absolutely nothing. And I'm like, this is the worst offensive game plan I've ever seen. That was Brian Callahan and
Zach Taylor.
And Zach Taylor.
Yeah.
At some point, you got to go downfield with the football. But I'm not talking about just doing bubble screens. Get the ball over the middle to guys who can do it.
Right.
And by the way, Cam Ward likes to throw it over the middle. He's good at it. And so that it's safer, throwing some of those deep outs, and he's good at it. So I don't mind seeing some of that, but I don't want him planted back there like a flower pot.
Right. And you look at his completion percentage from last week, 12 of 28. We've talked about the drops and that it should have been a lot higher, but I would like to see Brian Callahan just get him some easy ones.
Yep.
Like
give him some layups.
Give him some layups early on where
give the receivers some
rhythm.
Layups.
Right. Yeah. Let Calvin Ridley, because Calvin Ridley wasn't a huge part of the early game plan, and part of that could have been Patrick Surtain taking him out.
Well, I mean, look, we didn't expect him to have a huge day. He's got the best DB in NFL on him, but the other guys have got to make plays.
Calvin had the wide receivers in general had like one catch in the first half, and I think it was just Alec Ayaman, or maybe there was two. Calvin Ridley had the little screen that didn't go anywhere.
Tyler Lockett was on a milk carton.
Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson didn't have a catch, which Jefferson didn't play a ton.
Yeah,
right.
Because I saw Bryce Oliver catch a pass.
Yeah, Bryce Oliver caught one. Did Chim catch one? He had
one carry for 9 yards.
Right.
I'm not sure if he had a reception.
Cam Ward targeted him on the one up the seam where he wanted him to kind of
flatten
he's not
out happy
the route.
with him. Yeah.
You could read his lips. Chim yelling back to the huddle.
Yeah.
2793 mentioned Gunnar Helm too. He says, Cory, too early passes to Helm, but no more. I thought he would be targeted more.
I did too.
That was interesting.
I did too.
I mean, the first one didn't count as a catch, but it was a connection between Ward and Helm. The slight bobble on his way out of bounds.
But it wasn't a bobble. It was the guy tried ripping it out.
Right. But he controlled it.
Yes.
The two
it
times
should have been a catch.
The two times you threw to Helm, it went pretty successfully.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little surprised that we didn't see more Gunnar Helm the rest of the day.
And he's a big target. I mean, what is he, 6'6"?
Yeah, he's big.
And he's got really long arms. And so, he is a big target,
6'5".
And he gives you a catch radius where it gives the quarterback more options on where to put the football to keep it away from defenders and to keep it out of trouble. And so I'd like to see him be a bigger part of it. And that's not me just rooting for, but just like to make it easier for the quarterback.
Yeah. And it's like when you see that Ward and Helm seem to be on the same page, and Helm was a reliable target, which was more than a lot of guys could say.
He doesn't drop the ball.
Yeah. He caught it twice.
He dropped the ball in camp.
Right. So maybe we do see more Gunnar Helm. I don't know. Let's look at the Rams. Like their inside linebackers. Nate Landman, I guess, made a big play. He punched the ball out at the end of the game against the Texans to save that win.
They're a good team.
They're a good team. There's really not a whole lot of holes on this Rams roster.
I mean, you're not going to be able to look at their defense and say, oh, well, they can just take advantage of this and run down the field. They just give up 9 points to Houston.
Yes.
Now, Houston's offensive line is a disaster again. But they still, I mean, they shut down Nico Collins. Nico Collins didn't beat him.
Yeah. And you hope Calvin Ridley can be better. And we'll get into a little bit more about, the outside. Can the Titans exploit a little bit more down the field? Because that was something that I was, and again, it could have just been the Broncos taking it away, but we didn't get to see Cam Ward throw one deep on Sunday. And
there was no time.
Right.
He couldn't. And that's what I'm saying. They've got to establish some other things to slow it down
and
to give him the time to go there.
They need to be able to establish the run, because outside of one or two drives early on, Tony Pollard didn't get much going, especially late in that game.
They had a couple of traps over the middle that were nice, but there wasn't enough consistency. And frankly, some of those plays take some time to develop.
Yeah.
And the Broncos were coming so hard off the edge.
Yes.
That they were getting in the backfield before he could get to the line.
Right. And it ended up forcing Cam Ward. It forced the Titans to be a drop back pass offense late in the game.
Which is right where Denver wants you.
Denver pinned their ears back and made it tough on them. 615-737-1025. Yes. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have thoughts on the Titans and Rams coming up on Sunday, our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll get into some L'Jarius Sneed coming up next, because I thought he looked good when he was on the field.
21 snaps.
And nothing in the second half. I'm interested to see how much more they can start to get him involved, because he looked good. He said he was healthy and could have played more. Do we see him out there for maybe 50% of the snaps this week, or does it get closer to full go as we get into week 2? 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis from News 2, Parker Kelly here on Next Man Up, 1025 The Game. Final half hour, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis from News 2, Parker Kelly with you. Titans 0-1, fell to the Broncos 20-12. We have unpacked pretty much everything from that game ad nauseum. The mistakes from Brian Callahan, Calvin Ridley's drops, the offensive line struggles. Trying to move on to the Rams. And one of the bigger storylines this week, I think, is going to be how involved L'Jarius Sneed is. Because we saw him out there for the first couple of drives. And maybe he was around the ball because the Broncos were trying to target him. But when he was around the ball, he looked good. Like, he looked fast. He laid a hit on somebody. Was it Courtland Sutton, maybe? Like, no, it was Troy Franklin. He hit Troy Franklin early in that game. He looked good, but then he disappeared. And they said he was on a snap count.
Yep.
I questioned the idea of putting him on a snap count and then using all of the snaps in the first quarter. I guess maybe you don't want him to get cold and then warm back up again and all that kind of stuff, but it felt like it could have been used a little bit more tactically, of instead of just putting him out there until he hit his snap count and then pulling him, maybe you put him out there and say, all right, maybe we'll need you like that the last drive of the first half. Put him out there when there's 20 seconds left and you just need to make sure the Broncos don't score a touchdown.
Well, I think Brian Callahan used a word here that's important when we're talking about this. And he was talking about it's the buildup.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're building him up. If you spread him out over 4 quarters where he gets like 4 snaps per quarter, you're not getting a buildup.
That's a good point.
All right. You're getting a buildup. He's on the field. He's working,
Yeah.
When you go run, and you're training for a marathon, you don't, run a mile, walk 4, run one. Some people might.
Yeah. But you run 8, then you run 12.
That's right. You build up. And so I think that's why you do that.
It was just strange to keep seeing him with his helmet off on the sideline.
It's tough.
It's like
it's a tough look, but
he could help this team.
But you know what would have helped? If he started practicing 2-3 weeks earlier.
Yeah.
And you could say that wasn't his call. I don't know. It's not his call. But all I know is this: he's been hurt since he walked in the door. All right. And so it's not fair to be frustrated with the guy because he's been hurt. But I think what's people frustrating is they know they need him. All right. And you're right. They need him Sunday. All right. And they need him for more than 21 snaps. They have a Hall of Fame receiver as their number 2 and a number 1 receiver who's on a fast track. Okay. So they need both of those guys and they need to cover both of those guys. And they're both physical guys, by the way. So you need L'Jarius Sneed. How many snaps can he play on a day that's going to be in the 90s at kickoff? All right. It's going to be interesting to see. He's got to hydrate. Everybody's got to hydrate.
Yeah.
I would guess he plays between 30 and 40. I would hope you get him through the entire first half and then play him in obvious passing situations in the second half.
Yeah. Put him out there on third downs.
But we'll see. We'll see. But you need him. You need him.
Because Darrell Baker, he wasn't a disaster on Sunday. Like, if you look back at the game on Sunday, I don't think
he's not why they lost.
You don't point at Darrell Baker and say he was horrible, but he did give up that touchdown to Courtland Sutton. It was a good play by Sutton, a good throw from Nix.
Yeah.
But he was a guy that they targeted pretty often when he was out there. It was like, hey, all right, 39.
Well, why was he
go
targeted?
after him? Because
he's a backup.
He's a backup. Yeah.
That's right.
You need your starters to be on the field.
That's right.
And
Courtland Sutton makes a lot of money and is a good player and should take advantage of a backup.
Yeah. Courtland Sutton had a good game on Sunday in terms of the plays he did make. And, I thought I've said this all week, but like some of those calls on Jarvis Brownlee, he's got to be less handsy. But there was at least a couple where Sutton pushed off and Brownlee kind of hand fought back and he got called for it.
There was one I didn't particularly like. There was one on the sideline where the flag came in way after the play was over.
Right.
I did not like that.
That was not. They didn't call it pass interference. They called it illegal contact while the quarterback was in the pocket. I'm like, how do you call that after the play when it happened before the throw?
It's either illegal contact or it's not. You don't get to decide after the fact.
Because it was incomplete.
Yes.
Now it's illegal contact.
That's the big frustration.
That was
the pass is incomplete, so I'm going to throw a flag now.
That was what confused me. I'm like, all right, if you're going to throw it after the pass is incomplete, it has to be pass interference because
whether it's complete or it's incomplete, it's got to be the same call.
Yes. And that was frustrating. He did get away with one later in the game on the sideline that probably should have been pass interference.
But look, Sean McVay's not an idiot. He's
going
to
know that.
He's going to pull the zebras over
and tell them, watch.
And he's going to say 29 is going to hold all day. And you know what he's going to have? He's going to have 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 20, even worse. And he's going to say, run to the sticks, all right? And we're going to throw it at you and see if we can get a call.
Yeah, put your hands on 29, and he's going to grab you back, and you're going to get a call. And
I guarantee you they move the chains on 1/3 down with the call on Brownlee.
And that's what's tough without Snead on the field. And Snead is handsy too, but he's a veteran. He knows when and where to do it.
He gets away with more.
Yes.
And Brownlee's not there yet.
And if you are running out on 3rd and longs, Baker, against Puka Nacua or Devontae Adams, there's a good chance he's going to get beat. And Brownlee, who's going to get called for a penalty, it puts you in a really tough spot because, again, you've got smart, experienced coach, smart, experienced quarterback. They're going to know where to go with the football.
Yep.
And it's going to be tough to get off the field if Snead's not out there at least a little bit more than he was last week.
Well, and then what if you're winning?
Yeah.
What if you're winning?
What if you're winning?
And they've got to throw it.
Yeah.
I mean, you need him on the field.
That is the question. It's like you kind of expect against the Rams, the Titans aren't going to be winning. But if you're up by 6 points late in the game and you can't have L'Jarius Snead on the field, it's a tough break because that's a game that you're not supposed to win. And every one of those is important. There aren't a whole lot of games you are supposed to win this year if you're the Titans.
Yeah, I don't think they might be favored in one.
Saints and Browns, I think, are the two that you look at.
I think the Saints is the one game they're favored in. They're at home.
And it's like the way the Colts and Jaguars looked on Sunday, you don't know if you'll even be favored at home against them.
Yeah.
It's Saints and Browns are the two that you look at and say, yeah, maybe the Titans are favorites in those
Maybe
games.
The Patriots, we'll see where they're at when they get here because they didn't look particularly good.
Which is crazy because Parker was saying, they were favored in 11 games
heading
into
11 of 17
11
games.
of 17
because
games.
Everybody thinks that Mike Vrabel reinvented the game.
It was shocking to find out he wasn't the greatest coach in NFL history on Sunday.
Look, he's a good coach. He knows what he's doing.
He is.
The problem is he wants to do all the other stuff too.
Right. And as good as their offseason was, like they were the offseason champions. They spent a ton in free agency. The draft picks were Milton Williams. They got Stephon Diggs, who Stephon Diggs is over the hill for sure. But and then their draft class, they got a bunch of flashy names.
Yeah.
I love you got Travion Henderson.
I love him.
Kyle Williams was a sleeper pick in the 3rd round.
He's a sleeper pick. So he's a developmental player.
Right.
So and their wide receiving core is trash.
Pop Douglas.
Their wide receiving core is trash. Okay.
And that's the point I'm trying to make is they were the offseason champions. But even if you had a perfect offseason, you don't turn a 4-13 roster into a 11-6 roster in one offseason. That just doesn't happen.
Well, and I hate to say this, Mike Vrabel's not known for developing his offense.
Right.
I mean, he's just not.
You're hoping Josh McDaniels can bring some Brady magic.
When he had Arthur, they did some things, but he also had AJ and Henry, and Tannehill was playing well,
and a good offensive line. Yeah.
And I don't think he has any of those things right now.
No.
He's got a promising young quarterback, a promising young running back.
The offensive line, I guess, is better. Like Will Campbell has proven himself a little bit at left tackle.
And they've got an aging tight end.
Yeah, two of them.
Who used to be good, but rarely stay healthy. I mean, look, he may go 12-4, 12-5, and I'll say I was wrong.
Yeah.
But and again, I think Mike Vrabel can certainly win games in the NFL. He has proven that. That roster is not where it needs to be for us to be crowning them for anything.
Yeah. I mean, we said that they were going to be better, but that doesn't mean a playoff team.
No.
And it's hard to be worse. And Drake May's a good, promising young quarterback, but unless you're a superstar in year 2, you usually don't take the leap to being the very top.
Look, the most promising thing for them is they're playing a last place schedule.
Yep.
And that the Dolphins are horrible.
Well, they play the Dolphins this week.
You got the Dolphins
in
twice,
Miami.
And they play a last place schedule. So, I mean, they're going to have games with teams like the Titans and teams like the Browns. And
that schedule's easy.
And so, you know, if you're good enough, you win some of those games. And now you're looking at 7-10. And
yep.
Hey, we're on the uptick. The Titans are looking at the same thing.
Yep.
They got a last place schedule. They need to take advantage of it.
If Joe Milton doesn't win that game, they had the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
I mean, that is how bad that team was last year. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Let's quickly go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam from Portland is on the line. Adam, good morning. Thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was gonna let it go, Jake, because I've already I'm tired of talking about this coach. But Cory's on here, and I really want to hear Cory. Have you ever seen anything so stupid as this coach? And I'm a grown man, and he's a grown man. I get it. So, but I've never seen a coach so incompetent. I feel like he's our biggest hurdle for the rest of the season now. And so I hear Jake, and he just kind of triggers me when he's like, "Oh yeah, you're probably not going to beat the Rams." Well, you could. You could have beat Denver, but our coach got in the way. It's the dumb. I don't know, dude. I just can't get over it. At this point in the week, I would already be on to the Rams, but I'm so still he's going to be a problem this week too. He's dumb. I think he's a dumb coach. So that's where I'm at.
Well, listen, we have talked about the fact that, you shouldn't be talking about the head coach. If you're talking about the head coach, it's a problem. And we're talking about the head coach because there are calls that came into play that you question. And that you shouldn't be there. Now, I think the calls before halftime was one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. There's no argument you can make to me for that scenario to do what they did. And I like Brian Callahan very much as a person, and I'm certain he knows more football than I'll ever forget. Is he the dumbest coach I've ever coached or ever worked with? No, he is not. I covered Ken Wisenhunt for 2 years. I did the coaches show with him for 2 years. Okay. He's the worst coach I ever covered. All right. And I'm sorry, Ken, if you're listening, I am, but it was not a good 2 years.
It's tough.
It was not a good 2 years. And I heard things that I can't unhear.
He only won 3 games?
3 and
so
24.
Brian Callahan has already tied him.
Or 3 and 21, I think it was.
Yeah, because he won both his openers. We were going through this earlier. Won both his openers, and his only other win was 2014 against the Jags when they blocked a field goal as time expired that would have lost the game for them.
3 and 24, because then Malarkey went 2 and 7.
Yes. Adam, I'm with you. That was one of the worst coaching performances we've seen in a while on Sunday. In terms of just everything that went wrong with the challenge, the end of half sequence, and you have 130 yards of penalties.
And regardless of what you think of Brian Callahan, and right now, look, all the thoughts on him are going to be negative because we're living in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. And Andy's 3 and 15. All right. So, I mean, that is what it is. And you can be the biggest Brian Callahan fan in the world, but you still have to look at the record and say it is what it is. The fact is they're playing an elite head coach.
They did last week. Well, Sean Payton didn't look like an elite head coach, but
he made some questionable
decisions. He's supposed to be an elite head coach.
He got away with some questionable stuff, but Sean McVay's an elite head coach.
Yep.
I mean, we talked about it. If Sean McVay was the head coach of this football team, there
are way different expectations.
Yeah, they're probably picked a challenge for the AFC South.
Yep.
That's just reality, and that's not putting down Brian Callahan, but he's not Sean McVay right now.
Yep.
Sean McVay's elite. He's elite. He is not coaching for his job. I said every coach is coaching for his job. He is not.
Yeah, I think there are only a few out there: McVay,
Reed,
Harbaugh, Reed,
both Harbaughs.
Both Harbaughs, I don't think are. Mike Tomlin, I would put in there,
no,
but it's
he's coaching for his job too.
I think the Steelers at this point are kind of ready to move on. It's like, hey, yeah, you don't lose, but you also haven't won in a while.
They haven't given him what he needs.
Yeah,
there's no question. He is a tremendous head coach, but you get fatigue like with Marvin Lewis in Cincinnati.
It's getting to Marvin Lewis territory of you're going to put us in the conversation every year, but
and he did the best he could with the players that he had, and it wasn't good enough.
Yep. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll wrap up the conversation coming up next. Final segment on this Wednesday. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Wrapping up the show, next man up, 102.5 The Game, Jake Lyman, joined by Cory Curtis from News 2, Parker Kelly. Again tomorrow, Teron Davenport going to be on this show for his weekly appearance. We'll go through everything that went down in Denver with TD and look ahead to the Rams. Titans will be on the practice field this afternoon. We will get an injury report. JC Latham, the one that everybody has their eyes on. Make sure to keep it tuned to Chasing Big Joe coming up right after us. Let's go back to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Wes from Hermitage is on the line wanting to chime in. Wes, go ahead.
Oh, man, I just heard that coming back in from break. Every little thing is not going to be all right. I am with that. It is just, man. Look, guys, after about 2.5 days, I think we've hammered it home everything that Callahan could have done better or that he did wrong. And I agree that, it's been a long time since I've seen a game coach that bad. So my question is now redirected. Same thing, just alternative. What did he do correct? Did Callahan do anything Sunday where we were like, oh, man, that was a good call. That was great coaching. I know what he did was stupid, but was there anything we can take away from Sunday where we're like, you know what? We might have something with this guy?
Well, look, they were ready to play. The special teams was wildly improved over last year, and the defense was much improved over last year. Now, offensively, you're right. There left a lot to be desired, and there is a lot of meat left on that bone to get better because we can't point at much offensively and say this was good. And it's
but isn't the special teams Bones Fossil? Like, is that?
Yeah, but he's the head coach.
He hired Bones Fossil.
He made the change.
But he didn't even want to fire the special teams coach. This was something that he was forced. His hand was forced on that.
I don't know if that's confirmed.
I don't know if that's true or if that's not true. But regardless, he got Bones Fossil in the building, and they are wildly better than they were, at least for one game. So those things are yes, but that's not what he was brought here to do.
Right.
Well, he was brought here to bring this offense into the 21st century, and right now they still look like they're in the 18th, 19th century. And so
the forward pass hasn't been invented quite yet. That's why the receivers couldn't catch it.
Well, they couldn't catch it and they couldn't protect it. And that's a problem when you can't do either. So your outrage and your disappointment and your questioning are all perfectly fair.
Yep.
Because the other big thing we didn't just bring up was penalties, which was the huge problem last year, which was the huge point of emphasis in the offseason, and it didn't get fixed. And so, those are things that are very fair to point at the head coach. And as you're saying, he has a lot to prove. And you don't have to apologize for saying that.
No, it was a bad game from Brian Callahan. Thanks for the call, Wes. It was a bad game from Brian Callahan. We've bemoaned all of the issues with it. But again, he's not getting fired this week. He's going to be on the sidelines on Sunday, and you have to see growth. You have to.
Well, and okay, let's go to the first drive. I know there are some people in that 3rd and 10 who are upset with the handoff, thought he should have been more aggressive. You're on the road with a rookie quarterback facing a big pass rush.
I like that one.
I like that play call.
Yep.
I like that play call. See if you can surprise him with it. Get your 3 points. I think that's a good call.
I thought that was a good play call. I thought for the most part, outside of a couple of series, I didn't hate a lot of the play calling. Like, especially the last drive of the game, like he called plays that got receivers open down the field, which is what you're trying to do with less than a minute left. The guys just dropped the ball. Like, that's not on Brian Callahan.
Well, it's like you go back to, was the Jaguars game or the Patriots game? I think it was the Jaguars where Levis throws deep to Nick Westbrook-Akine at the back of the end zone and overshoots him.
Yeah.
It looked like he could have made a play in the ball and didn't, but he had Chigakonkwo wide open in front of him by himself in the end zone. Is that on the coach?
No. And Brian Callahan takes the brunt of the blame
because he's the head coach.
Because he's the head coach.
That's the job.
And
that's the job.
He had noticeable mistakes on Sunday.
Yeah. Now, there were parts of the team that were better.
Yeah.
Does that excuse everything? No, but you asked me what was better, and I'm telling you that these things are better, and he's the head coach. And when the defense is bad, he takes the blame. And when the defense is better, he gets some of the credit because it's still his football team.
Yeah.
Look, they're 3-15. 3-15.
Yeah.
And he takes the blame, regardless of roster, regardless of quarterback play, regardless of coordinator this or the coordinator that. They're his decisions. Just like, Colt Anderson being his decision, ultimately Bones Fossil is his decision, and he gets credit for that. All right, he does. Whether you think it's forced, unforced, whatever. I never heard it was forced. All right,
I hadn't heard that either. I think it was speculated that maybe it was forced.
Sure,
but
and maybe it was. Maybe it was. I don't care. All right, because right now they have a guy who's one of the more elite special teams coordinators in the league. They've got a lot of chefs in the kitchen over there right now. I mean, Mike McCoy is an analyst.
Offensive analyst.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, so they've got a lot of people and they've got a lot of stuff to get fixed. Some of it got fixed. They've got some more to work on.
Yes. Sunday has to be better for Brian Callahan. We can't be having the same conversation a week from now.
They can lose, but he can't be a part of that equation.
Right. He cannot be the reason, and he was a large part of the reason on Sunday. Corey, thanks for coming by. It was fun as always.
We'll see you next week.
Yep, we'll talk to you next week. TD going to be on the program tomorrow. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next. You're on 102.5 The Game.